Revival House Network. What's up, everybody? Revival House, Cinema Enema back with a new episode. This month, it's the much talked about Hellraiser 1 versus Hellraiser 2 discussion. Now, if you guys aren't typically familiar with this show, it's a show where Zach and I, instead of doing like commentary, which is what we do on the BTM show, we pick a meaty topic to discuss. But at the top of the show, we discuss news and we discuss what we've been watching. And it's just more of a conversational type of podcast. So without going too deep into it, I want to say that we have Josh James from the R-Rated Horror Commentary joining us.
What's up, guys?
As well as Goat from the movie Graveyard. So we got a fatal four-way going on here.
Yep.
And I thought that was the best way to go about it just because I love the topic. I'm a huge Hellraiser 1 fan. And the stances on Hellraiser 2, I've always noticed to being pretty divided.
You know, what's funny too is like the whole point of this was like, yeah, let's get different, opinions, and we don't even know if anybody on this episode likes the second one more than the first one.
Well, I am not expecting anybody to like the second one more than the first one. I've always seen it polarized as either you like it or either you think it services the first one or it doesn't do a service to the first one.
I've seen plenty of people that love the second one more.
Okay. Yeah. So before we get too carried away with that, we do the normal intro first and we kind of talk about news. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did my normal thing, usually for prep. I kind of go through all the headlines and stuff and pick out the juicy stuff to talk about. And there ain't shit, man. And this whole, I'm going to say, quote, real world events that are going on has made it really slow in the news department. And all I'll say is the headlines I have found, you could just go on Dread Central and you could see, well, the big thing, I guess, Joe Ruby, the creator of Scooby-Doo, he died. So RIP to him. He was announced dead today.
Fucking Scooby-Doo's creator.
No.
Yeah, so that's a bummer. But the only other news bit I could find other than that's actually really news is Drew Barrymore said her grandfather's corpse was stolen.
Yeah. What?
Oh, what the hell?
Dude.
Well, what's weird is apparently that was like an urban legend forever, and she just confirmed an urban legend, so.
Okay.
I'd never heard that before.
I never heard it either.
Was it Ed Gein?
That did it?
It could have been.
You never know, man. But other than that, man, you should look the way clickbait headline culture, it's gotten so pathetic. I mean, it's always been pathetic. But for example, on one page, on one website, here are the headlines I found. And they're all, but mind you, they're always situations where somebody's being interviewed at a stupid convention or over Zoom these days, and somebody asks them a stupid baity question, and it's a hypothetical that would never really come to fruition in real life. And of course, they give an answer, and that becomes the headline. So hear me out. Adrienne Barbeau would love to return for The Fog Part 2. No shit. Yeah, right. When you ask an out-of-work actress if she'd love to do a sequel to a horror classic she was in 5 years ago, what do you expect her to say? That's not a headline.
You called her an asterisk.
Tony Todd, ready to return to Final Destination? Of course he is. He's a working actor. And when you ask him if they reboot it, would you return? What is he supposed to say? No? Suck a dick?
Dude, it's kind of like that every 3 or 4 days I get like a notice on social media that Robert Englund's ready to play Freddy one more time. It's
yeah.
Come on, man. It's fucking clickbait bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hayden Panettiere, we would love her to be in Scream 5. No one's talking about this. This is how sad people are.
But Mac always brings us these articles like, hey, did you guys see this? Oh, hell yeah.
And the last one, literally, this is 4 on one, no scrolling. This is 4 in one page. Didn't you have to scroll down? Hugh Jackman up for a Face Off remake with Ryan Reynolds. Look, when you don't even have to read the article to know that somebody just asked a question. He was being fucking cheeky, right? It's like, this is not a headline. These are fucking ridiculous.
Well, what's worse besides asking like, hey, out of work actor would like to return? It's like, what's even dumber, it's like, They always like supposedly want to return to something that, you know, the studio would never ever make, period. No remake, no sequel, no nothing. So it's like imaginary part going to an imaginary movie that will never happen. Good job, clickbaiters.
Yeah, it's totally stupid. And in recent time, I like going back to, I don't know who it is. I think he was a relative no-name YouTuber, but he landed a role with Eddie Furlong, which is my fucking dream because he was at some convention before the world went to shit. And it was the most, what do you say? He was digging so hard for headlines. You know how they'll ask certain questions, right? To try and get him to respond because it's that juicy headline. And he was trying every which way to Sunday, asking him all these, and he was asking the same damn questions and he kept rewording them and asking them again. And Eddie Furlong, surprisingly, was super classy and he kept dodging them all really well. But it made me cringe.
Neo in the Matrix.
It made me cringe so bad. I'm like, how many times can you reword this?
Yeah, he basically just wanted a headline. He's like, oh, so you're back in Terminator. So I forget how he kept asking it, but it was like
he kept trying to get him to shit talk, which we all
try to bait him into the soundbite he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And he kept asking the same fucking questions, but rewording it. And I'm like, it was pretty cringe. I'm like, this is the guy that gets to interview our Lord and Savior Eddie Furlong and not us?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, I would only do the most respectful of interviews.
He's fucking stupid because he never even thought of once to say, like, so fucking Brain Scan 2, when's it happening, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so much better questions to ask and more fun questions to ask. Not that necessarily, because that would make me a hypocrite of what I'm just trashing on, but I would rather talk about those movies than, you know, keep trying to get some fucking lame ass headline. He was a class act, man. He kept angling it. He was truthful, but he kept ending it classy, like by saying, but I'm real blessed, man. I got James Cameron gave me a job. What can I say? Like, he was taking the high road every time. But
I mean, he's basically lying because he didn't really give him a job. He just took a picture of him and put it on the computer.
Yeah. Well, in that interview, he said, he's like, well, it was like a day's work. I went in for like 6 hours. I'm like, and I was like, really? You did? They needed you to mocap? It was a kid.
They put the little ball circles on his face and had him say the lines.
They did like how, you know, say you're shooting a movie with no film in the camera. They didn't have any hard drives hooked up to the computer. They just made him feel like. Are you guys talking about the convention interview? Like, it's fairly recently that Furlong did with our boy Wet Movie 1. Are you talking about that one?
I don't know what that guy looks like. Is he skinny, fat, tall, short?
He used to be a husky gentleman. He's slimmed down a lot, and I'd say he has like glasses and usually kind of slick to the side, dark hair.
Is this guy like a boy of yours?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's who I'm talking. I think that's who
he's a famous YouTuber, but he's not. I don't know him personally.
I think that might be who I'm talking about. I mean, I don't know. They're all fat basement dwellers. They can't pick them out. But that's probably him.
Represent.
Yeah. But I was so shocked when he said, yeah, I actually came in to do work. If I was the interviewer, I would have challenged that. I would have been like, really? You did? I mean, did they have to dig up Peter Cushing's corpse to come in and do that fucking Star Wars deepfake or whatever? I didn't really think that's the way it worked, but
see, this is why I've been like binge watching Hot Ones lately, because the fucking interviewer in that show asks like great questions, and the interviews are always interesting, you know?
Yeah, I've watched quite a few of them. Yeah, I've watched a lot of them, probably most of them. I haven't watched too many of them since they're all zoomed. I think the last one I watched was the Dua Lipa one. I don't even know why I watched that.
Yeah, they just dropped one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt that was pretty good as well. But yeah, you could tell like the interviewer, you know, him and his staff, they actually engage their brains to find out things about these people and ask them interesting questions. And the cool thing is that, you know, the person they're interviewing, the interviewee, is actually like perks up, and it becomes a better interview because they're not just like going through the motions or whatever.
Yeah, and then the gimmick of them asking these questions while they're eating progressively hotter wing. I mean, they don't really need our advertisement. They're fucking massive. But what's it called, though? I thought it was funny because when the whole Jay and Silent Bob reboot, that shitty movie, I don't want to get into, it was terrible. It was, didn't Kevin Smith kind of put on his fake Hot Ones because he said, well, we tried to get on Hot Ones, and they said we weren't big enough. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah. They said
that can't be true.
He said they 100% got rejected to be on Hot Ones, so they did their own faux Hot Ones on YouTube or something. And
dude, they have some really fucking obscure.
I know
celebs on that show.
Fuck Hot Ones, they're elitist. Fuck them. Well,
Yeah.
No, I know.
I think that was a joke, though. I saw that video, Aaron. I think that was a joke just because I think...
That's got to be a joke, man.
I think it was just easier for him and Jay because they film videos together all the time for YouTube and different things. Like, I think it was just easier for them with the timing of promoting the movie, of doing it themselves. You know what I mean? Because they called it Not Ones. They kept saying,
oh, yeah.
Not
You
Ones.
might be right, but usually when I hear him talk, I can usually tell when he's being sincere and he's taking the piss. And I took it the other way. But yeah, I guess I don't know at the end of the day. The only other news that is kind of new, well, it is actually big news that I guess we could talk about is as of this recording at midnight today, Bill and Ted Face the Music finally came out. So is this a good avenue to talk about that a little bit, Zach? Or maybe we can talk about it a little bit here?
Did everybody watch it? I doubt it.
I haven't. No, I mean, I got a file of it and I'm going to check it out because, I mean, obviously I want to review it from a channel. I'm not optimistic at all that it'll be any good, but you know, hey, if it's a good time and I get a chuckle out of it, I'll be happy. But, you know, I was disappointed with the Jane Silent Bob reboot you just mentioned. That was like, I was like, what the fuck was this? Like, this is not Kevin.
Dude, that was not good. It was terrible.
Like Kevin Smith usually can zero in on those characters real well, but it was just like a fucking, we don't have to get into review that. I understand. But, yeah, so I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, I don't know, man. It just doesn't look like something that's going to be good to me. But especially since you don't have Carlin in it.
If you guys don't object, I can give you a quick, no spoiler summary of my opinion. It depends. I don't even want to. If you guys don't want to talk about it,
I kind of want to go in blind, man. You know, I want to give it a fair chance.
I don't have to. I feel like I have to talk about. I'm not even going to give story bits. I'll just kind of give my general impressions of it, and I don't think they're going to disappoint you. Did you watch it, Zach?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll give you a totally vague opinion of the movie. I feel it was about as good as I expected it could be, which, you know, is not a bad thing. I feel like I get why they made the Bill and Ted characters a certain way in this movie, but it didn't make me miss the more positive, upbeat, smiling constantly and kind of stupid to everything else. They're just constantly happy to a terminal point. I still miss that because this movie, they're very downtrodden, and it makes sense when you watch the movie, I guess, right? I mean, there's a whole undertone vibe of it of, I think the big message of the movie is like, it's about these, when do you call it a match? When do you fucking say, okay, I'm done chasing a dream? Like, you know, when do you throw in that towel? I could be so it makes sense why they're a certain way in the movie, but it made me feel a little bit like, man, I want to watch an old one now because I miss them being so happy. And,
well, can I just make a quick observation about that? That's the crux of my issue with what I've seen of it so far, which is simply just like the poster and I think like one trailer. But I'm like, you know, Bill and Ted was a couple movies that were really centered around the idea of like youth and naivety and like, you know, just having that spark of like adventure or whatever when you're young and like thinking anything's possible. And you don't really want to see those characters old, you know? And I know they're trying to like prop up the movie with their daughters having the youthful element in it, but it just doesn't really appeal to me when they're like, you know, dudes older than I am, you know, like in their 50s or whatever.
I was pleasantly surprised that it was still ultimately their movie. I was scared it was going to be a hardcore passing of the torch movie. And it was going to be all about, I thought they were going to pull that shit. But no, I mean, their daughters play a role, but they're not like, they're not stealing the whole show or anything like that. It is Bill and Ted's movie and they play a part, of course, but I thought, and it wasn't sequelitis as bad as I thought it was going to be, you know, because that's why I like the first two movies, because Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, it's such an interesting sequel because most movies that are hits or have a following, they just repeat. They rinse, repeat, and they do the exact same thing, but they just make it bigger for the sequel. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is a completely fucking different movie. Different premise. They go batshit crazy. I mean, the stuff that they even got by the producers, like they got greenlit, is baffling. Like everything about that movie is fucking off the wall, and it got made. But
see, I wished it was more like the second one, but I feel like it's a bit more like the first one. I liked how it's like, oh yeah, we like with part two, they're like, we don't give a fuck. We're gonna throw everything at the fucking. We're gonna see what sticks. But this one, it seems like a more safe sequel. It almost seems like this is the one that like more people probably that don't like the second one would have been hoping for back in the day.
Well, what's funny is, and I don't understand it, man. I was looking up reviews, like after I graded it and shit on Letterboxd, and I've always known that people like the first one and generally shit on the second one. But when I was reading the reviews of Bill and Ted Save the Music, it just reaffirmed all that. Like, there's a lot of people that just don't like the second one. And a lot of people were saying that this one was almost as good as the first one, but better, but definitely better than the second one. I'm like, what are these people drinking? The second one's great.
My big problems with it were just like the obvious, like, oh, it looks so modern, like, all the green screen looks very Disney. Anytime I see shots of people standing in front of a green screen and the background's done later, I just think of Disney and shit like that. But yeah, we'll talk about that when we do our commentary on it eventually.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, that I think I'm trying to have a little bit more of an open mind. I'm trying to be more fair to it because up to this point, Bill and Ted movies have always been a product of when they came out. The first movie, filmed in 87, came out a couple years late. It was shelved, obviously, for a couple years, but that is so much an 80s movie. Everything about it's fucking ultra 80s, from the fucking Eddie Van Halen worship to just the rest of the soundtrack, the clothes they wear, how it looks, like Zach was alluding to with this one. Just like the second one is such an early 90s movie. And I have a soft spot for early 90s movies. That's why I love Pet Sematary 2. I love T1. I love, and it's the same thing with albums, man. For me, I think recording was at the peak in the early 90s, before things got digital in the late 90s. Then it just became all like auto-tuned and Pro Tool to death. And you can tell, you can listen to Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and it reeks of 1991, right? You can listen to, I don't know if anybody, I'm trying to make a comparison. I like Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. And you can tell No More Tears came out in fucking 1991. It just has that fucking gloss, that peak production before it all went digital. I'm a sucker for it. And once again, Bill and Ted's, they were wearing more flannel. Like, even their outfits looked a little bit more early 90s. They looked like they could have been found at an Anthrax concert. And the soundtrack reflected the bands of the day as well. So it's hard for me to criticize too much when this one reflects 2020, right? The Kid Cudi and, some of the soundtrack choices. It didn't seem so music centric. Like, the soundtracks were a big part of the first two movies, right? I mean, they're very memorable. Even the stuff that wasn't rock centric. In the first movie, I always think about that Extreme song, right? Do you want to play? All these songs that are all throughout the movie. And I didn't really relate to any of the tracks that were on the sound. Like, Weezer is the fucking lead single, but it wasn't offensive or anything. Yeah, it wasn't offensive. It's just a product of 2020.
The Blue Album still rules, though.
Dude, I cannot listen to Weezer anymore. I don't know. I must have gotten old somewhere along the way because they annoy the shit out of me now.
Must have been at that nap you had to take before we started recording.
Yeah, probably.
I did too. I'm the same way. But yeah, so like I said, I'm trying not to be too hard on it for coming out in 2020 and it looking like a 2020 movie. But yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah, sorry, bro.
No, I just wanted to say, just my opinion. I don't have any opinion on the quality of the movie because I haven't seen it. But like, the last 10 years we've been hearing about this fucking thing. I was all about it. Like, I wanted to see older Bill and Ted. I was like, hey, if Alex and Keanu are going to do it, I'm going to be all about this movie no matter what. So it's like, even before, like, officially it was like the direct-to-video thing, it was like, okay, here comes the trailer. Okay, didn't really knock my socks off at all, but it was cool to see Bill and Ted again. I appreciate the trailer wasn't, like, spoiling too much, wasn't giving too many jokes away. But then just, like, on YouTube, like, probably, like, the last month, they've been popping up showing very tiny clips, and I've just been watching the clips, and I just, like, my anticipation went down to zero just because it just looked like... And I understand they kept saying, "Oh, we have no money for this. We have no money for this." But it
looks cheap.
Yeah, like Zach knows. Like, one of my favorite movies is Clerks. So I mean, I don't care how cheap it is. What I can't stand is how cheap bland it is, or it looks, I should say. I don't want to judge the movie.
That's what.
But it's just like, yeah. As soon as I saw that digital look, there's like a scene with Bill and Ted on a driveway, and I'm like, this literally looks like I took my Canon 1080p video camera from 10 years ago and went out there and filmed Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter doing a scene. Like it looked like something they would make for like Funny and Die. It didn't look like what I want to see Bill and Ted, but I want to see him in a movie.
Yeah.
This is where we're going to come off sounding like old men, though, because like I said, that's just the way fucking cheap ass movies are made in 2020. The first two movies didn't have big budgets either. That's what I was going to say. So, but in the last movie, for example, they still went to hell. They went to heaven, but they were using sets, and they looked cheap, but they looked fucking creative as shit. right? They were still using set pieces and props and lighting and stuff. Now just look at the room where they're playing Death in Bogus Journey. You know, it's just a dark room set with some blue light coming through the windows. Super effective. Hell in this is, like you said, it's a fucking YouTube video. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
But that's just me going to be old. I mean,
it's fucking crime against humanity. Like, I'm pretty sure whoever made it to where like CGI is like cheaper than just practical effects nowadays, like they should totally be tried for crimes against humanity. Nuremberg trials.
Who produced this movie? What studios put this out?
oh gosh,
Orion.
it was Orion. Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't scrape together a decent budget for this thing, or what?
I just don't. I find it hard to believe that doing a green screen for Hell versus what they did for, like I said, them playing fucking Battleship with Death in the second movie is any more expensive. It's probably just for the sake of it being even keel. It's like, well, we can't. There's so many scenes that we're gonna have to do green screen because it's cheaper. We might as well just do all. I don't know, but yeah, it just has this look about it that's just kind of icky. But I didn't hate the movie though. By the way, I didn't hate it. I went into it just like Zach suggested, blind. I went into it with as little fucking hope for it as possible, and it helped me appreciate it. I mean, I don't know if Bill and Ted 2 is a 10 or not. For Zach, I know it is, but if it's not a 10, it's a 9. I'm super nostalgic for it too. But let's just say that Bill and Ted Bogus Journey to me was a 10. I've always said that I think it's substantially better than the first movie, right? The first movie started off as a cash in on the whole Back to the Future craze and time travel, and they kind of, made their own little stoner comedy out of it. Nothing super original, but it made something pretty endearing and charming. I think that one's a 7. I like it. I don't think it's got shit on the second one. This one is probably a 7, I guess. Maybe it's not quite as good as the first one, though, but it's all right. I liked it enough. I'll watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since I had to fucking buy the thing for $25.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't think I would do that.
yeah, rent it. I think today you can rent it for like the $6 or whatever. I was on the Zach bandwagon, like, I'm going to support it, man, and I'm happy I did. But it is what it is. I could have waited and got a physical copy. But anyway,
you guys hear any news that you can bring up before we go to
Dude, I was going to bring up Daisy Ridley complaining about not getting cast in any roles after Skywalker.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I thought that was old news. Hasn't she talked about that before?
No, that just dropped today or yesterday. She tried out for all these different roles back in January after the movie dropped, and she didn't get any of them. So
Razy Diddley.
I mean, she's not. Yeah, right. Razy Diddley.
Yeah.
She's just kind of a bland actor, in my opinion, so it doesn't really... But, I mean, it'd be cool to see her do some of the other stuff. I mean, here's the thing, is, you don't see Oscar Isaacs or Boyega not getting roles, though,
Well, Oscar Isaac had a career before Star Wars. He was already starting to heat up with other shit.
It's kind of white... brunette British girls are not highest in demand worldwide. They really only want them from Star Wars movies. So it's and plus nobody really ever gave her good reviews. You could say, obviously Oscar Isaac's been in a shitload of critically acclaimed movies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, everybody had a boner for him from Attack the Block and then that one Riot movie he did. But I mean, Razy Diddley never got a good review or acclaimed performance for anything. Yeah.
Razy Diddley.
That's funny. Maybe it's also just sort of the Star Wars curse, man. It's like Mark Hamill was kind of cancer for a while. It's not like he went on to be this A-list.
Well, I think this is the modern Star Wars curse too, like a trilogy of films that people slowly probably soured on as they came out.
And isn't that weird how the prequel trilogy already got established A-listers like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor? It's kind of, but no, Hayden Christensen, right? He went nowhere fast after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
he worked.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Ew, that's what we should have said about Bill and Ted. It looks like those fucking prequel trilogy movies. That's where it started.
I never gave a shit about Star Wars, but whenever I saw that, I was like, that's what those people that hated those prequels are talking about. How fucking just lame it looks to see people in front of a green screen the whole time. And apparently the newer Hobbit movies are like that too.
Yeah, they are.
But the difference, like George Lucas had a boner for perfecting that technology and pushing it and inventing it, but at least he still did like a lot of models. Like there's a lot of sets and shit that people think are all CGI, they actually aren't. Like if you ever look at the behind the scenes shit, whereas Bill and Ted's was entirely filmed on a green screen in fucking Vancouver, 100%.
Oh, dude, like when they went at the beginning of the movie when we're seeing the future, like the most important people, right, and all that shit. I'm sorry. Oh, you don't watch the movie. Okay. But it's the same shit as all the other movies where you see the future, right?
Yeah.
That's it. It looks, they all look fake in every movie, but it's clearly just the worst green screen and it's just like a white background. It doesn't even look 3-dimensional. It looks so fucking bad.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the trailers or clips or something.
Whereas you look at when they go to heaven in the second one, and it's also just a big blank white room, but it's clearly a room with like a white backdrop or something. At least it looks tangible, right? And whatever, but I could talk about it all day long. But
isn't it weird how Hollywood's like, we want franchise, we want franchise, we want franchise, but we don't want to create any new ones?
Yeah, they just keep. I mean, I just saw them announce that they're fucking going back to the well and the Thing.
Yeah, for what?
Fuck, like, man. You don't. Why do they reboot perfected movies, man? It's just like it doesn't make any sense at all. But yeah, where's their interest in conjuring up a fresh idea and making something new, like do some groundbreaking shit, you know?
Well, I wouldn't even mind if it was like literally just like the formulaic shit of like, we're going to create a slasher villain and we're going to like, no matter what, you know, as long as the first movie doesn't bomb, we're just going to make a trilogy out of it just to say, fuck it. Let's
like Hatchet series or something.
Yeah, just something like that. I mean, obviously, hopefully a little bit bigger budget than Hatchet was. But yeah, it's like, I have more respect for that, for like, we need franchise films, let's create a franchise, instead of like, let's take your old franchise, let's redo it, do it shitty, and then tell all the original fans to fuck off. Like, that's what I'm getting sick of.
Yeah, so tired of that shit, man.
People are always complaining that, oh, Hollywood's not, you know, there's no original ideas. And I don't think that's the case. I think there's tons of original scripts laying on desks everywhere right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's Hollywood. It's the producers that don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the producers.
They want the guaranteed paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also too, they raise all the money for the funding from overseas. And all those foreign people are like, oh, yeah, we've heard of such and such. We've heard of such and such. Oh, original movie? No, thanks. We won't invest in that. That's what it is.
100%. And that's where you get all your script pandering too.
Yeah.
Look, you can't offend these people. We can't we can't make a movie with terrorists in the subject because the Middle East buys most of our movies. But you can, you know, make a movie where they go and plow down. Rambo can kill a bunch of Mexicans. They don't buy our movies. They don't give a shit. Yeah. Right. It's just a big game. And yeah, I mean, you have to imagine that there's people like us that are also getting into the screenwriting game that want those movies. They're just not getting past the fucking thresholds. Yeah. I mean, 100%. Eventually, hopefully, I've said the last 10 years that we were hopefully approaching a new revolution. I think the first time, it's been a long time since anybody came out and really shook up the industry and started a whole new wave of Quentin Tarantino, probably, right? Yeah. When he came out, everybody's like, oh my God, violence is it's in vogue now. It's popular. It's like, we want to do it. Let's capitalize. And there's a lot of people that you started getting a lot of, I'm like not copycats or anything else, but I think Quentin Tarantino opened the door for directors like P.T. Anderson, right? These more obscure type of directors.
He's one of the only dudes left that can get financing to make original films. You know what I mean? Like he's part of a dying breed of original people who could write their own story, put their own movie together, put their own touch on it, you know, have their own flavor, and people still go out and buy it. Now everything's like fucking, you know, these directors are pumping out our like factory, you know, like these young dudes, and they put them on a big budget movie because they're cheap.
But that's the same reason as saying the only bands that fill stadiums right now are the bands that have been filling stadiums for 30 years. It's, you know, that directors are established, right? It's like Jim Cameron. So there's like rules to screenwriting, right? Typically, if you're a nobody or you're just playing the basic game, you know, they don't want it to be a certain page length. It has to be formatted a certain way. I've read multiple occasions. It's like Jim Cameron, they don't give a fuck, dude. He throws down 300-page scripts, right? These giant, massive scripts. Yeah. And people give him money sight unseen because he can break the rules. He's James Cameron. I don't know. I just think it's just like music. I mean, you can make the parallel all day long. It's just going to be tougher here on out for new filmmakers.
Well, people are making new content. It's just it's all streaming stuff. You know what I mean? It's all TV series. It's all, you know, made for Netflix movies and shit. You don't see the unique stuff as much in the theater. or as big releases, but they just like kind of slip in under the radar on like Netflix or Shudder or whatever.
Well, what's weird too is like we were supposed to go to this, 10 years ago, everybody said, oh, we're moving towards this digital distribution model, which will make it so much easier for independents and all this kind of shit. And it's like, yeah, it's easier to maybe make a movie and then sell it to Netflix or Shudder or whatever, but like it's not easy to have a hit. It's not easy for anybody to know about your movie. It's not easy to find financing for your second or third film. So it's like, what difference, you know what I mean?
Now when that South Park bit rings so true, where it's like, remember Netflix buys everything, they greenlight everything. Yeah, it's like they want to fill the empty spaces. You got all these A-list or once A-list actors, now they're just Redbox filler, and it's just.
We didn't do what we've been watching, but I was going to mention that I watched a movie that I got from our boy the Goat on his show. He did a movie called Tapeheads, and I watched that recently.
Yeah,
and I really liked it.
Yeah,
it was a oddball, fucking almost
very oddball,
almost kind of similar to Bill and Ted in a way.
Yeah.
Okay. So Zach brought up a good point. We should talk about what we've been watching. We'll let the guests go first, though. Josh, maybe 2 or 3 big things you think you've watched recently, good or bad.
Okay. Well, I guess the most enjoyable thing I've been watching. I'm like 2 episodes away from finishing Hannibal, so I know I'm like way behind the ball on that, but it's been fucking just brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
Dang.
As far as movies go, I just saw Midsommar. And me and my girl watched it together and enjoyed it. It's a little long-winded. There's a lot of stuff in there. Like they kind of felt like they glazed over certain characters in the movie, but had a ton of filler in there. So it was like this really long-winded movie, but there wasn't a lot of like character building in it. But I kind of enjoyed it. It was pretty disturbing, I guess. And what else have I been watching? I guess. Well, I finished the Boys season 1, so I'm looking forward. Season 2 just dropped on Prime, so
that's a fun time.
I gotta watch it.
It is. It's pretty twisted, man. I hope they didn't jump the shark on season 2. Like sometimes these shows, when they're new, kind of have a little bit more integrity, and then when they become popular, all of a sudden they like try to infuse it with all this bullshit, like all these politics and stuff, and I'm catching wind that they kind of did that with season 2, and I'm just like, oh, guys, I hope it doesn't become like this big preachy mess. But, I mean, shit, I love like a good sadistic, twisted show, and The Boys doesn't disappoint, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. So that's pretty much what's been on my plate lately.
Have you checked that out, Goat? The Boys?
No, I don't have the Amazon Primes right now.
Okay, yeah, you probably like it. You like the superhero stuff.
Yeah, and I liked Watchmen, and every time I see the preview for The Boys, it kind of somewhat reminds me of Watchmen.
Oh yeah, you watched Midsommar too. What'd you think of that?
I loved it. I loved it, baby. Phil Dees hooked me up a couple months ago. It was my birthday, and he got me the import copy from UK. So I saw the director's cut, and I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's a divisive one too. I mean, I'm on the other side of the fence where I just think it was way too long. Like it's not even just a little bit. Like they could have cut fucking 45 minutes off that thing. I don't know, but I liked Hereditary much better.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I like Hereditary. Well, see, cults really creep me out, so it kind of got under my skin a little bit. But so since we've all seen it, like, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, the prophet, ancestral prophet character with the messed up face, like. I really feel like they could have gone into detail with that character, like brought that out in the forefront a little bit more, but they had like a lot of time in the movie where they could have filled in a little bit more of that character. But,
oh yeah, I love fucking incest babies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think there's other movies that have done the cult thing a lot better and in a lot less time.
Name one.
I mean, the fucking main inspiration, The Wicker Man, was so much better, and it was done in 90 minutes.
That's the movie that it reminded me of the most. Was probably Wicker Man, but I think Midsommar was a way better movie, tighter. But I think Wicker Man probably had a little bit more entertainment value.
It's a better remake than the Wicker Man remake, and a better sequel to the Wicker Man than the Wicker Man sequel.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. I don't know. I think this day and age, man, it seems to be the trend to make movies super long, and I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's just me being old, but I feel like movies are getting longer and longer, and they're not warranted. I think it's very, very hard to earn that runtime over 2 hours. I really do. I think you can tell most fucking stories in under 2 hours.
I kind of got the feeling that they had that runtime to create a tone, in the movie. Like
to me, yeah. As soon as it starts feeling like the movie needs to wrap up now, is right whenever it hits the third, like the start of the third act. So like it does kind of make you like, man, I don't like being here anymore. I want to go. Like I want to leave. Like as if you're there with them or something. I thought it worked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you feel like you're stuck in this place with them. But it also kind of reminded me of Mandy. Speaking of, what's his name?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Cosmatos.
A lot of triangles.
Hell yeah.
Lots of creepy shit going on, cultish shit. So I definitely had a little bit of that flavor too. I just kind of feel, I don't know. It didn't get a thumbs down for me. I probably give it like a 6.5 or a 7.
The main character really like hit with me. Like with her fucking weird anxiety attacks and stuff. Like, yeah, I was like that for a while, a couple years ago. And I connected with it.
Yeah, I mean, she did a good job portraying that sort of like traumatized character, Like the whole movie starts off with this really bad vibe because of what happens to her family. And, you see how is she even managing to keep her shit together? And then her life just becomes this like living nightmare. So it is terrifying. It's a terrifying movie in that regard, but
my criticism of it, it's hard to really even call it a criticism because I think that was the intention of the movie, is every fucking character is miserably insufferable. I hate them all, but I think you're supposed to. I think they're all supposed to be miserable fucks, but it just didn't do anything for me. I hated I didn't like any of them. They were all insufferable to me.
Beta cut.
Yeah, I don't know. Hereditary was just as long, but it didn't feel like it to me. But maybe it's apples and oranges at that point. I don't know, but it is what it is. And I think I sound like I'm harsher on it than someone like Josh, but at the end of the day, Zach, I think I said I gave it a 6, just like Josh is kind of in that ballpark too. Hereditary I gave much higher. I don't remember what it was, but I don't know, apples and oranges. But what else you watch, Goat?
I think you're talking to Josh.
He said he's watching TV. Is that all you got, Josh?
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, go ahead and give us yours, Goat.
Yeah, I rewatched something that's really good that you can catch on YouTube, officially uploaded, so it's not a bootleg. I want to recommend our main boy, Pauly Shore, his documentary, Pauly Shore Stands Alone, Baby. It's from about 5 years ago. He's in his mid-40s, kind of having a crisis. It's actually a very touching film. It documents like a tour he did of the Midwest, like literally by himself, just driving around in a rental car, going on these tiny, like no-name towns, and at the same time he's dealing with his mom slowly dying. So it's actually very good, very touching, but a lot of crazy stuff. Like the first gig of the tour is like in the basement of a strip club, so you get some good weasel antics, and you get to see a little bit more of Pauly Shore's like true personality, which I like. A movie that like I just always saw in a VHS store, like video store, and I was like, I never had any clue about anything about it, and I just watched it because it was on cable. I liked it. It was I think it's like around 1987-ish. This movie called Suspect with Cher and Dennis Quaid.
Dog.
Yeah, it's pretty donk because it's like there's it takes place in Washington D.C. and then like a woman who like works for like a judge's office or whatever is found murdered on the banks of whatever, and like they blame it on this homeless guy, which is Liam Neeson, but like he got fucked up in the war, so he can't talk or he can't speak. So like Cher's the public defender trying to defend him, and like on the jury is Dennis Quaid, who plays like actually a Washington lobbyist, and he just gets interested in the case because he realizes it's like just they're basically just railroading this homeless guy who can't talk and can't really defend himself, and like he just looks guilty because they just saw him like hanging around the parking lot, but there's no evidence. So it's pretty interesting because it's like at the same time Cher's trying to investigate like what really happened, like Dennis Quaid's helping her, but like obviously a prosecutor or I'm sorry, a public defender and a jury member can't work together, so like they got to keep a secret, and there's like a whole conspiracy and shit. It was actually a way better movie than I thought, and I don't know, I love Cher, so I like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
My grandfather dubbed her the ugliest woman he'd ever seen.
Beta.
Oh, I
No
disagree,
way.
dude, especially back in the day.
she is so fucking hot and Moonstruck, man. It's like,
Yeah.
damn,
Dude, I always wanted to see her getting fucking railed by Rocky Dennis.
Oh, that'd be so
I
Taboo 3.
yeah,
coincidentally I put that movie in my HBO Max watch list 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Is that where you watched it, HBO, right?
No, I watched it on, I can't remember what channel, because I just have a lot of movie channels, but I watched it through Dish, which does not have a contract with HBO, so sometimes streaming rights and cable satellite broadcast rights are with different channels, so yeah, but
I love going through the streaming channels, and I like finding movies that I've really never heard of, but they don't seem like movies I shouldn't have, like they have talent behind them, and they just seem like those movies that had a budget and they just must have came out against some stiff competition and they got buried and forgotten, right? I'm really attracted to those movies. I'm like, okay, like maybe it's a hidden gem I'm finding.
Yeah, let me throw this out there real quick since you brought that up. You guys have Tubi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Most people have it if they have a Fire Stick, but there's this little channel called Tubi. It's got tons of obscure horror and stuff, all kinds of other genres and action and stuff like that. But I found this one little movie called The Zero Boys.
Oh yeah,
which was all shot on the same location Friday the 13th Part 3 was shot. So it's got the barn. It's before the house burned down, so it's got the house in it. And it's like your own. It's a weird movie. It's because it's right around the time frame of Friday the 13th Part 3 as well. So if you watch in a movie, it's almost like this weird action 80s / horror movie. So it's almost feels like you're watching a Friday the 13th movie too. It's not very good, but it's like it's an interesting movie to watch. Check it out. I mean, it's not particularly good, but it's entertaining in that 80s nostalgia way. So throw that out there too. Yeah, Zero Boys on Tubi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Zero Boys got my girl Kelly Maroney in it, and I agree with you. It's it's not the best, but it's fun to watch because it almost feels like a movie that they shot on a weekend or something like that. Like it's very, very cool.
Yeah. And you just got to get through the paintball scene in the beginning, and then the movie kind of launches from there. But
yeah, over the top paintball scene. And the last thing I say I was watching for TV wise, I just started last night the second season of the show Get Shorty. I like that show a lot. I don't hear anybody talk about it, but it's pretty donk. It's pretty hardcore. It's pretty much like it reminds me a lot of the show Breaking Bad, but set within like Hollywood movie industry, and it's like a good spoof of Hollywood and stuff. And
kind of like Ray Donovan.
Yeah. I compare it a lot to Ray Donovan.
You were talking about it on our Exploit Cinema. You said it's about like two guys that like get a script. They murder somebody and then they take a script and try to get it financed in Hollywood.
Yeah.
How close is it to the movie though? I like the movie.
Not close at all. Like it even says very loosely based. So it's like basically this Irish guy and this Mormon guy who work as like hitmen / loan sharks for like the Guatemalan mob in the Nevada desert. And like this is a really shitty casino, which is like the main lady who's like the main mob head. And like they go to LA. Like this is all in the very first like pilot episode. They go to LA to collect a debt for some shitty wannabe screenwriter. And they end up killing him, but they find his script that he wrote. And then like they basically just steal it. And because like the main Irish dude, he just wants to get out of the mob so bad because it's only a matter of time before he gets whacked too. So it's like basically just go on this big odyssey to like infiltrate Hollywood. They totally break into people's houses. They totally hold people at gunpoint, like force them to do business deals and shit. Like, and it's very hardcore. There's like a lot of behind the scenes of like, like drug deals and shit and mobs going after each other. Like there's constantly somebody getting killed on the show. And it's just a great pressure cooker of the show. Like the first season is pretty much like trying to get their first movie made. And I just started the second season. So it's like trying to get that movie finished and released and stuff. But like, it's a pretty good show in terms of like good character stuff mixed with like good tension.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I've added it to my watch list.
What was that streaming out of?
Last time I looked, the first season is for some reason there's 3 seasons. For some reason, only the first season is on Netflix, but it's an Epic show, so Epix has all 3 seasons on it.
Gotcha.
Dog.
Nice.
But even if you can only watch the first season, because the first season has like such an awesome conclusion, even if you can only get that first season, I would say watch it.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Zach, what you been watching?
Okay.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Well, like I said, I got that movie Tapeheads from our boy, The Goat. I've been watching his YouTube channel, and I'm all caught up on it. So, like, yeah, I made a list. Like, I watched a couple movies. I watched Bad Influence. It's on HBO. He did a review of that, and I liked it. It was like, I always liked Cable Guy, but always thought it was kind of a mess. And Bad Influence is basically like Cable Guy, but it's not a mess. So yeah, that's definitely check out. That's a good one. And I watched Creed 2. And it's funny because it's like, as soon as you saw the trailer for that, you knew what the movie was. Like, the whole script was written in your mind, but it's like, it's still satisfying to watch. I liked that one. And, I watched a movie called The Savages with my boy Philip Seymour Hoffman. And it's basically about a brother and sister who have to take care of their dad. Like, basically, he was not a great father to him, but it's kind of like the pain you go through, even if, like, you know, it wasn't like, even if you weren't close with your family, like, you always kind of go through the pain of, like, them growing old and having to, you know, put them in a folks home and all that shit. That was pretty good. And, that's about it, pretty much.
On Creed 2, I gotta say, because it relates to what we were speaking about with Bill and Ted. I love Creed 2. I actually like Creed 1 and 2. I'm a Rocky fanboy. But for some reason, that final bout with Adonis Creed and Drago, that boxing match, it looks so shitty, that green screen behind him. It's like all blue. You know what I'm talking? You remember it, Zach? Remember how gaudy it looks?
I actually don't know if I noticed.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it, like, you can see, like, the lining of the person, you know, it looks obvious, like it's not even a good job. And I don't know if they're trying to play it off like it's the lights behind them, but it just, I don't know why they did that, because the rest of the movie's not like it. And you could just tell they're on like a green screen boxing ring. And it's just like, oh, but yeah, I love that flick, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My stuff, a few things. Continuing the streak, dude. I think Netflix is on this shit roll of just shitty original movies, man. I watched that Project Power, that Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Foxx.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
Oh, it's shitty.
It was so
terrible,
mediocre, man. Like,
I get 4 out of 10.
Cookie cutter.
4 out of 10. That was being kind. I mean, it just was. It was shit. I didn't like it. And I watched The Florida Project, which, you know, that was, I think Willem Dafoe was nominated for an Academy Award on the last one round. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-mm.
I saw it back when it came out.
So it's an indie flick, and I liked it all right. I gave it like a 6 out of 10. It was it's one of those slice of life movies. It's just it hit home for me because it's a slice of life, and I was those people. It's about these people that live in a shitty motel, like an extended stay shitty motel in Orlando, Florida, and it's supposed to paint this basically contrasting look at how the sausage is made. It's like, you know, all these people associate Disney World, and people going on vacation, all these rich families, which you see that like in the movie throughout, like all these, it's a tourist town. But in order for those people to enjoy, you know, the most magical place in the world, there's people that work in this town and live in the shitty motels and do drugs and hook and shit. And it's just it was very real, man, because I've done that. I used to live in a fucking motel and be around all those people.
You used to hook?
I used to hook, but no, it really is. It's really just a slice of life, and it's like a day in the life of this particular family and this little girl and her mother and what they go through. And then Willem Dafoe is the property manager of this shitty little motel, this gaudy looking purple motel. And it was good. It was good. At first, Zach, if you remember the ending of that movie, I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending of the movie, it seemed so out of left field and weird and jarring. But I guess after I thought about it for a while, I know why they did that, if you remember it. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it, but yeah, it kind of wraps it up like, okay, I get it, right? It's kind of playing on the fantasies of someone like that character who never had anything, you know? Those people probably just wanted to be like all the rich kids that were flying in to go to Disney World, you know? I know what it's like. And actually, I used to live in Florida, and we lived in a fucking motel, and we had no money, and my dad was an ex-con, and it was fucking terrible. And I never once went to Disney World. So I relate, you know, but it's like I could throw a rock, right? Anyway, it was an interesting flick, and Willem Dafoe was really, really good in it, at least. So I finally watched that Curse Films Shudder thing. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
The only
Which
thing,
one?
The Curse film, like mini doc about all the like Poltergeist and fucking Twilight Zone, the movie, these Curse movies.
All the movies that had like accidents on set and shit like that.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's really neat. My only, I guess, kind of critique is it's only 5 parts, I believe, and it's all the movies that you expect them to cover. Like, is this really the only ones that they, you know what I mean? It's like, I guess they gave me more info than I knew, I guess, but a lot of the big points I already knew, you know, but it was still cool. It was a
Yeah, I knew more about the first two. Like the first two episodes, it was like I already knew all of this stuff. But like, yeah, you hear people talk about The Crow, but like I never really heard people go in depth. Like I didn't know like that whole shit with what was his name?
Oh, wait, you mean how it happened? Like the bullet, how it was lodged, the dummy?
No, it was just cut from the movie The Bone guy. That was Michael Berryman.
Oh yeah, Michael Berryman. Yeah,
That shit looked cool as hell.
That
was
really
cut out of
did.
the movie.
Yeah, so I didn't really know much about that, but I knew the science behind how Brandon Lee got killed. I knew about all that stuff, the case that was like lodged in the gun and it fired out. I've known all that. And of course I knew about the poltergeist thing, and the murder and the obviously the little girl dying. And I knew, yeah, I mean, if I didn't know it before, I got a lesson on Twilight Zone, the movie, after watching that episode of Exploited Cinema. So, you know, a lot of that stuff was, but it was still fun to listen to, though. I still really enjoyed it. I watched, okay, this one's been on my list for literally years. I don't know how I just never got around to watching it, but I finally watched the Attenborough, Richard Attenborough movie Magic with the dummy.
Oh yeah, and fucking what's his name?
Burgess Meredith and Anthony Hopkins, and
yeah.
Oh, that movie's fucked, man.
I loved it, man. I thought it was right up my alley. I mean, I don't know. My first impressions was I gave it an 8 out of 10. And how did I wrote a little review on it. I basically put Burgess Meredith once again proving he had the sharpest tongue in the business. Seems like a redheaded stepchild within Richard Attenborough's collective works, which it does. But I think this flick, but I love the flick, and Anthony Hopkins' performance was incredible. But I basically said it's basically like a feature-length episode of Tales from the Crypt, and that's a great thing. Because that is what it kind of feels like.
Did you have you seen that, Goat?
No, I was about to say when you brought that up, like that's one of the holes in my 80s repertoire, because I seen that the box like in every video store I went to as a kid, and for some reason I never got around to renting it. Like I always thought it might be a little hokey because it was about $1 or whatever.
Dude, no, but it's actually 70s. It's 78, and it's not. Okay. It's fucking. It's really clever. They do it super clever. I mean, you could look at the box.
That's on Shudder, isn't it?
Where did I watch it?
I think I watched it on Shudder.
It was for a little bit. I think.
I watched it on HBO, I think.
Okay.
But it's out there.
Yeah, I think I saw it listed on HBO too. It seems like everything's. I've been a Shudder subscriber since May, I think, and it seems like everything is on Shudder, but only for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
seems to have a hard time holding on to licenses for things.
Yeah. That's one of the things I hate about Amazon Prime too. Is they're one of the ones that never tell you when something's getting ready to leave.
Yeah, but I feel like Magic is such a. I mean, can you think of a more eclectic filmography than Richard Attenborough and what he's directed? Like, how do you go? Yeah. How do you follow up fucking A Bridge Too Far with fucking Magic and then go into Gandhi? It's just like they're just. It just feels like it's not a Richard Attenborough movie. It doesn't, but it's so good. I think it's kind of cool. He essentially made kind of a B movie because it feels like he read an old Tales from the Crypt magazine or something, you know. But it's. I liked it a lot. What else? A movie that I just always went under my radar. I never watched it. I just got a wild hair and I was watching HBO because I recently got HBO, so it's like I've been diving into that, and I watched that movie Orphan.
Oh yeah.
I went into it thinking, oh god, it's a 2009 horror movie. This is gonna suck, but I didn't. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Did you get a boner towards like that end scene that was so sexy?
Oh, with the trying to hit on the dad and try to
so that was hot.
About I don't remember how far into it. Maybe when the third act is about to turn, right? I finally hit me. I'm like, I know this story. You know where they based it on.
It actually isn't based on it. There was an actual. Basically, there's these two parents that basically watched that movie and decided they were gonna kind of like say that some girl they adopted was like that character, but it turns out like she was like a kid. Like, yeah,
you're thinking of the more modern one, the one that was more recently in the news, right? Like recently.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I know what you're talking about. But no, this actually really happened, and it was literally before this movie came out. Like whenever whoever wrote the script, that news story was fresh, and they were, but. The real story involved a girl from, I don't remember. It wasn't Russia. I know she's supposed to be Russian in the movie, but somewhere in Eastern Europe, I think. And they obviously crafted their own story, like, but the actual twist was all taken from the headlines, right? This girl that was in a mental institution and she slipped under the radar and because she had this disease that made her not grow, and she found herself into the system and got adopted. So and she was pretty malicious to a point, and then of course it got revealed, oh god, she's really in her 30s or whatever. So the overall twist and the gimmick, like you could tell that's the whole catalyst for the movie. Like, okay, we got to turn this into a movie. And then they wrote all this other shit with the parents grieving, and they made their own movie out of it. And I know movies do that a lot. I mean, it's not a bad thing to take inspiration, but when I realized about an hour and a half into it, like the story, like, oh god, I realized where the twist was going. I'm like, oh fuck, it's that fucking story. It took a little bit out of it for me because I certainly knew everything. And I'm like, oh, but it doesn't matter. I thought the movie was put together really well, and it was really cool. The way I described it was, it's not original, and even the twist, even if you take it out of you remove the news headline thing, the twist has kind of been done before in movies, right? So it's not super original, but I thought it was well made, and it was creepy enough, and it was loaded with fucking tropes and cliches, but that shit doesn't always bother me. And I essentially summed it up to being a mix of Don't Look Now, The Good Son, and a lad Bible story.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The Good Son. Those two movies are like, you could sell those at a twin pack at Walmart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen The Killer Kids before, but like I said, Don't Look Now kind of did that twist, right? And obviously they were taking inspiration from that real life news story, which is like some shit you'd see on Lad Bible.
It's got fucking Norma Bates in there, though. She's hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. It was. I enjoyed it, man. It wasn't a bad way to spend a Friday night, but yeah, that's about it for me, though.
Hey, by the way, did you guys? I can't believe we didn't like put our heads together on this in a show earlier, but did you guys catch the Last Drive-In Scary Summer Sleepover episode?
I didn't.
I haven't yet. Yeah, I need to.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was really good. I'll just say that, and then I'll leave it to you guys to watch it later. Maybe we could talk about it on a show.
I have a bad habit of catching up to all the Joe Bob shit much later, and then I will get to it.
It's all half gone.
Yeah, but hey guys, I hate to break momentum. Zach, we're gonna have to place this in the news section. We'll have to edit it, but this was announced some minutes ago while we're talking. Yep. Chadwick Boseman dead, man. Black Panther.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, damn.
Died of colon cancer, I guess. They just announced it as of as we're recording this now. I didn't even know he had colon cancer. I guess he was fighting it for 4 years.
Yeah, so he probably had it when they made the Black Panther movie as well.
Well, he's young, man, 43. So if he was diagnosed with colon cancer when he was 39,
damn.
And he might have had it even before that. Yeah, for sure. That's young to have that. So, which scares me, man, because my dad died of colon cancer, and my doctors at the time, they said, you should get colonoscopies when you're about 50. Say, but since you're high risk, you should start probably right away, just in case. And I 2 years ago, I tried getting colonoscopies, and when I'm about to turn 34 now, but and I can't get my insurance to approve it. Like, you're too young. I'm like, motherfuckers. My dad's high risk. I want to get checked. I just want to stay on top. Like, they will not fucking pay for anything, right? And because I'm not 50. I'm like, my dad was dead at 44. So
right.
like,
beta cooks.
Yeah, so
they are beta cooks, cheap beta cooks.
It's real. They make you go through so many hoops, and so I got to get on that anyway. It's been on the back of my mind. So man, this guy was young, but was that even in the news that he was sick?
No, it was kept under wraps.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had never heard anything at all.
4 years. Wow.
Dude, I'm turning 43 in a few weeks, man. So it's like, that's just a fucking rude awakening. Like, I need to get to the doctor and get a fucking scope up my ass pronto.
Yeah, well, like I said, they usually advise 50, but I mean, so they might give you some push. But dude, like I said, my dad was 44 when he died, and he was diagnosed when he was 44, basically when it was too late. My dad was the type of dude that never went to a doctor. It wasn't until one night he woke up just screaming, and he started pissing what looked like coffee. Like, what the fuck? And then he went to a doctor, and they're like, oh yeah, hey, you've got like stage 4 cancer all over your body. It's like, yeah, you're done. And they sent him home and said, yeah, make preparation, because you probably got a couple weeks to live.
See, when we find out that people have stage 4 cancer and they only have it so long, like, they should get like a free pass to like do whatever they want for like a week.
Yeah, I agree.
I say that's fair.
Yeah, well, this has me like all paranoid too, man, because maybe it's a sign, because I got so exhausted trying to get them to approve this last year. And I was stubborn. I'm like, man, I don't want to pay for this out of pocket because it's fucking expensive as shit. And they defeated me. I'm like, I'm just going to come back to this later. But now, and I was thinking about it last week. I'm like, yeah, I got to like start that back up again. And I got to push and I got to try and get them to approve that so I can get it done, just so I can have peace of mind. And then I see this, like, fuck, I gotta do it.
Yeah.
But interesting. Anyway, well, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk some Hellraiser 1 versus Hellbound.
I have seen the future of horror. His name is Clive Barker. Hellraiser. Beyond any terror you have imagined. A nightmare. No. Unlike anything you have witnessed, is born. Because within these walls, the unholy is unleashed. A film by Clive Barker. We'll tear your soul apart.
All right, we're back and we're going to talk about the meat of the hour, which is a topic I'm passionate about, the original Hellraiser versus Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. I don't really know how, Zach, we should do this because we're not used to having 4 people. It's usually I usually let Zach kind of set up the movies and then we kind of talk about a certain way. But how about we start with Zach? Do you think we should wait? Can we just come out and say which one we prefer, or do you just kind of want to like work that into the end and just sort of talk about them? How do you want to do it?
I don't know. We could give like the plot of both and then just like talk about them both, or we could go one by one, whatever you want.
I think we should do the plots first. And you know what? I don't think anybody sums up a movie better than Goat. Would you be up for summing up Hellraiser 1?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you're good at it, man.
So basically what's going on is there's a family that's relocating, and this is where it gets a little tricky, but I'm going to say fuck it, and I'm going to tell it like the original story before the butchers at New World Jack Off Pictures fuck with it. The real story of the movie is supposed to be a blended family of an American man marrying a British woman for whatever reason, going back to his family's roots, like back in England, whatever, and taking over this old dilapidated house. But then they were like, oh, I still can't believe there's not like a Mad Max revised version of Hellraiser with the original voices. Like the American company was like, oh, we got to dub out some of these obvious British voices and try to set the movie in America. But when you watch this shit, like this fucking movie looks like it was shot on like the front cover of an old Led Zeppelin album. It's so British, like it's ridiculous. And even Julia still has her like slight British accent. So anyway, like they go there. And basically the guy, you know, like the guy obviously was married at some point, you know, had a first wife, and Julia's his second wife. So like he's basically a beta cuck because he married this woman. He had no idea what he was getting into. Turns out she's all horny fucking around. So they move into this, like, I won't say it's a little cottage, but it's like a 2-story house. It's like really rickety. I mean, this couldn't pass for anywhere in America. Like it's almost borderline Transylvania shit, how haunted this house is. But like they get there, and like the guy has an older daughter from his first marriage who's like somehow studying in college or whatever. But so she's not really living with him. So she pops in and out of the story. She becomes important later. So basically what happens is we start getting the backstory, and it turns out, yeah, this guy really is a beta cuck, because like everybody's falling over themselves to like come into his house and like drool. Like the movers, they're drooling over his wife, who like, you know, opinions vary on how hot Julie is, but everybody is just horny to do her in this little tiny British village. And it turns out she has a dark secret because the night before her wedding to the beta cuck, she actually had sex with his brother. He has a greasy, fully, swarthy brother named Frank who just knocked on the door in a rainstorm.
Aren't you going to let me in? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, with his great dubbed voice.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Aren't you going to let me in? Like, this motherfucker was evil before he even found the hell box. Yeah. So basically, they had sex. In between years, like, Frank is just like a ne'er-do-well. He went to this house. It was empty, I guess, after the family's mom died. And he had this little box that he opened up, and basically it was a gateway to hell. The Cenobites came. They ripped him apart. But somehow his like ribs and his heart are in the floorboards of this place. Mm-hmm. So when the beta cuck can't even get a fucking mattress up the stairs without cutting himself, like fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, so much blood because he bumped into a nail. His blood drips into the floorboards, reanimates Frank. Frank is like a slimy ass skeleton that raises up out of the fucking floor and screams like a wolf almost.
Awesome effect though. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Which, by the way, I got to stop you and say, isn't it really weird how Frank knew so much when he really had no right to? The blood, it brought me back. It did? You knew this? Okay, continue.
Yeah, because you were just a pair of lungs underneath the floorboard. Yeah. I never understood. Like he literally his body gets ripped to hell, like different pieces. The Cenobites rip him apart with the chains. So like I never understood how his partial remains got in the floorboards. Like did Pinhead dig up the floorboards, put them in there?
And for a movie that has such good practical effects, that heart looked like a Ziploc bag with red liquid in it. It was like, what the fuck is that?
It works.
I know, it's fine. Okay, continue. Sorry.
So basically what happens is Julia is like, she realizes that the more men she lures into this house to kill for Frank, and he kind of is almost like a vampire. Like this part isn't like it's shown, but it's not fully explained. Like he basically like they have to slice people open, and like he kind of sucks out the blood. But when you see him when they're done, like he sucks them out so much, it's also like he's sucking out their life force. So he pretty much goes from like a skeleton that talks to like an anatomy dummy in like a high school like bio class or something, and he gets getting bloodier and bloodier, and like pretty much by the end of the movie, eventually the daughter Ashley comes into
Kirsty,
played by Ashley Lawrence, comes into play. She realizes what's going on, that her no good wicked stepmother Julia, who's been luring in all these local businessmen to have dirty sex in the dirtiest attic ever made. She's basically, doing the devil's work, and like they're eventually, Kirsty realizes, they're eventually going to kill my dad. And obviously she finds out too late. And they pretty much skin her dad alive, and then Frank's wearing his skin, which I never understood that part of the plot. Like, why wouldn't Frank's skin ever come back? They just want to steal him.
I assume it's just he got tired of waiting and just like, I'm going to speed this up and steal his skin instead.
And then he mastered his brother's voice in a second. He knew how to just replicate that
within a second.
They did the thing like with Face Off. They put oh, I like peaches. Whatever he did.
Took his face off.
Exactly.
Kirsty, I could suck a peach for hours. That's how Frank talks. And not only that, but then you get the incest vibe, which it's not really incest because it's not really her dad. It's just
well, it's her uncle still.
Yeah,
it's still
incest.
Uncle Frank.
It's Uncle Frank having sex with the dad's dick.
Yeah. But it's implied that, he had done stuff to her when she was younger.
Yeah.
So they already had that strained relationship.
Or he always wanted to, at least. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, man. Maybe just looked at her, stared at her for too long or something,
Yeah.
So basically what happens is Kirsty finds the box. She starts dabbling with the hell world, I guess you could call it, and she realizes the Cenobites pretty much anybody who opens up the box, they'll come kill, and she basically makes a deal hey, I know you want my Uncle Frank, and she pretty much works a deal with the Cenobites, and they come in.
And then, that's perfect. We always end it on a cliffhanger. Will she figure out what's going on? Tune into the movie, but then, we'll throw out a spoiler alert and later on and describe if we get to that point and want to. But that's a good plot summary.
Well, so, I think we should talk about this movie first, then we'll move on to the second one. That's the way we should do it. But I'll pick apart a couple of the points that Goat was talking about. First of all, we were talking about Frank and that overdub. whoever did that overdub, it made it feel like a Casablanca type actor movie. Like I'm watching one of those old black and white movies, the way they used to sort of like theater act. You know, aren't you gonna let me in? Or, you know, I just, everything about it's so dramatic. And the topic of Julia, dude, she looks like fucking Stockard Channing's ugly fucking cousin. That's not a good thing.
I don't find her attractive at all.
No.
I think she looks really good in the second movie. I think she's pretty hot in the first movie.
I never.
Yeah.
That's actually something I wrote down. I wrote down that Julia is actually a little bit more attractive in the second movie, but
I don't understand. Yeah, like everybody in that village, like you said, is hard up, man, because they all want to fuck her. I mean, but you know what though? The guys are desperate, right? She's going for desperate guys, right? She's, you know, clearly that guy that was giving the rape vibes, like, you're not backing out on me now, right?
I mean, none of those dudes were like an Adonis or anything. They're all like balding, like middle-aged dudes, you know?
So I'll buy that. So I give it a pass.
In the first movie, she has a total David Bowie thing going on, and I've always wanted to fuck David.
David, you're on a first name basis.
For me, the scene that got me hot was when she showed up at the hotel bar or whatever it was, and like they keep showing the close-ups of like her lipstick getting stuck on the cigarettes or whatever. That's hot. That's like a clear.
Oh yeah.
That's like a very 80s erotic thing that was always in movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Brigitte Nielsen sort of move or something, you know?
And it also should be noted, it's kind of obvious if you guys actually watch the movie out there, but they got a different actor to play the skin suit Frank, right? Because they needed a guy that was really skinny, that, you know, sold the whole guy that was kind of recomposing or whatever. And
yeah, that was something I never knew about the original movie, because I always assumed it was the guy that played Larry playing in the skin suit. And that, yeah, it's a completely different actor. So it's like, you know, there's Frank, there's Larry, and then there's the other guy, whatever his name was, something Smith, that plays the skin suit dude. But no, I'm sorry, I always assumed it was the dude that played Frank. Rather, the actor that played Frank was this.
And I always figured that's why they did the overdub, but maybe not. Maybe it was a British thing. So was there two actors that played Frank and then a third guy that did the voice?
So basically, what happened when they made the movie? The guy who played Frank, like he did his like originally there was nobody was going to be like screwed up dubbed. It was the real actors doing all the real voices, same with the moving guys, all that. And then New World said, you know, I think this would actually make more money if it was set in America, which like you can't set this in America, because there's even a line where the husband guy, when they first move in the house, he tells Julia, like, oh, you know, at least you're back in your old stomping grounds. And like, she's clearly British. So like, what old stomping grounds is a British woman going to? It's like England, obviously. So it's like, yeah, they were just like, we have to get rid of all the accents, because, you know, American teens, like, they won't go see a movie with accents. And it's like, it's so stupid though, because if you would have left the accents alone, the only two people that would have really had accents in the movie would have been Frank and Julia. Like, you know what I mean? Which I guess maybe that's a little weird. Because like Andrew Robinson is clearly like American or whatever, but like still, I mean, that was the storyline, because like I guess he was like somehow part of the family in England, and then he I guess he moved to America way back in the day, and you know, or I don't know what the deal is, you know, maybe there was like an army family situation in the past, but yeah, like that's why you get the dubbing, because of New World Pictures for the American release. And I always thought that there would be like a British release floating around with the real voices, but I've never seen that come to light yet.
So maybe somewhere out there, the producers of Extro are kicking themselves because they could have cracked 100 million had they just made the choice to dub. No.
I mean, I think the weird dubbing actually adds to the charm of the movie. So personally, it doesn't take away the anything. But it would be cool to see how it was intended. You know, like just have them be somewhere in Great Britain, have that setting. I think could be nice too. But maybe one day we'll get a director's cut or something.
I agree with you. No, I think, like I personally, in my opinion, I've always thought Uncle Frank, not from Home Alone fame, Hellraiser fame, was the greatest. He's one of the greatest antagonists, and part of it, that overdub is just a creepy voice, man. It makes him extra creepy. And you know, when I was a little kid watching that movie, I didn't really understand the concept of an overdub. You know, I didn't really know.
I remember when I was a kid, anytime I saw a movie with overdub, I always just thought it was part of like the tape. Like, it's just so old that it's kind of out of alignment or something like that. Like the sound and the video don't match up perfect.
I can't imagine the movie without Uncle Frank being overdubbed with that weirdly sinister, charming voice. So yeah, it doesn't hinder anything for me. But the movie is special. I think it's great, and I think you know, they're going to sell a movie the way they're going to sell a movie. Clearly, it's got Pinhead on there. They want it to be appeasing to the eye. They want people to get their asses in the seats. They also want to capitalize on the big renaissance of horror in the 80s, because, you know, Hellraiser, I think, was what, 88, if I'm correct. So it's kind of late in the game, but, you know, the big renaissance of the 80s, you know, they wanted to capitalize on icons, Freddy's, Jason. So yeah, put that fucking guy with the nails in his head on the cover. But Frank's the villain, right? And
yeah, that's true.
Frank's the villain, and man, he's actually more sinister than the Cenobites ever could be. You know, he's just the sleaziest fucking human being that's capable.
Right.
You know, at least the Cenobites, they have order, right?
Well, I was going to say that Cenobites are almost kind of like these anti-heroes in the movie.
They're judges, right? They follow some kind of order and law. Obviously they back out on their word with Kirsty, you know, we lied type of thing, you know, when they made that deal. But more or less they follow some kind of code, it seems like. And Frank, man, he's this fucking vigilante. He breaks hell's rules. He escapes. He's on the run from them. He's fucking over his brother's. He fucks his brother's wife, for God's sakes. He tries to fuck his brother's kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like pure like narcissistic
scumbag,
evil, you know, which is why you know, hell wants to contain him, wants to take him.
One of the scenes I always laugh at is like the way Frank says "come to daddy" a couple times, but like that scene where Kirsty comes in and discovers him like in the process of killing somebody to like regenerate some of his own flesh. Like she starts screaming. He's like, "Oh, it's Uncle Frank. You remember? Come to daddy."
Yeah, come to daddy.
It's like, did you think that was gonna work? Like, what the fuck? But yeah, we could mention. I was gonna mention like the differences in the book real quick. The biggest difference is Frank's reanimation scene. It's a great scene in the movie, and I love the effects in the movie. But like the book, it was a little different in that like it wasn't like his heart underneath the floorboards. It was like going back at the beginning of the book whenever he opens up the box.
Semen.
Yeah, they start like torturing him, and it's like, yeah, he's basically got this sensory overload, and he doesn't know what to do, so he just starts masturbating, and I guess he busts his nut on the ground, and that's what he bleeds into, and it brings him back, and they had to change it.
I can't remember in the book, was he like, the cum, it brought me back? Did he just change it?
Maybe, yeah.
The cum.
Yeah, but
delicious.
For better or worse though, it's a pretty faithful adaptation. I mean, there's like a couple of little minor tweaks they made.
Yeah, like Kirsty was a friend of the dad, not his daughter. It was just like a friend of the family.
Her name wasn't Kirsty though, right? Didn't they change it? Wasn't it Christy?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like really weird shit that makes no sense. Like, why would you change it from Kirsty to Christy to Kirsty? Yeah, the friend thing. I mean, whatever. I mean, maybe they felt on screen him having a daughter made more sense. I don't fucking know.
Maybe they didn't want to imply that the dad was also like cheating on Julia. Maybe like some people might go there, and they wanted him to be more sympathetic.
And then obviously, I think the big one is the Cenobites, especially the lead Cenobite was more ambiguous. I think he was more or less described to be more like a female, but I think it was pretty much ambiguous at the end of the day. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so the movie special, it's one of those rare instances where you take, I mean, usually a movie cannot do what a book did. But in the case of The Hellbound Heart, it was a novella. I mean, the thing was like, what, 100 pages? I don't remember. But so I think you can only go up, because not only can you fit all that content, better or worse, in the movie, you can really do it justice. And you have the author of the book directing it, which I know there's a whole story about him getting funding. I'm pretty sure he went through hell getting the rights to direct it himself. But I think that's part of the fucking magic of why it's so good, because it was pretty much kept pure from the source material and all the way to the end. And I love it. I love how, I wonder if anybody was mad when they went and saw that movie after it being advertised, because you know the trailers were probably like just showing all the Cenobites, right, and showing all that creepy shit, and then obviously he's on the poster, and you go see the movie and you see the Cenobites for a second at the beginning, and you see him at the end.
Yeah.
Was anybody pissed back then?
I remember as a kid, like these movies, like I didn't see like any of these movies until I was in 7th grade. I watched, like, me and my cousin Mac from Mac and Zach. We rented them and watched 1 and 2 the same day. And like I remember, like before that, like I remember like our cousins, like we had a cousin that would like kind of shit on these movies, like, oh, I never got into those movies. I hate the monsters in there. They don't do anything. They just stand there and shit. And like I remember like whenever I finally watched it, I was like, I mean, they don't have to do anything. It's like it's more about the people involved, and they're just kind of there.
Well, the thing about Hellraiser movies is they're way way more cerebral than your classic Freddy, Michael, Jason, which are pretty basic concepts.
Mm-hmm.
These movies deal with really deep psychological themes, like corrupted sexuality and pleasure, like women coming into understanding pleasure in a different way, like it's just not the kind of movie that typically attracts a teenager. And I think that they probably knew that, which is why they sold it on the Cenobite, the Pinhead image, which is a great design, by the way. It sucks you in, but the story itself, it's just not really. Yeah, I mean, definitely didn't see these movies as a teenager. They came on me like later on in my early 20s when I was kind of really getting into my horror fandom, and even then, I don't think I was really appreciating them for what they were, But
yeah,
this movie is how. Sorry. This movie's how you do low budget, right? They did low budget, but they had just enough cool shit. Like they blew their wad finance wise in the right places, and they used it to sell the movie.
Yeah,
but story carried it. Story carried ultimately a low budget movie, and it did it great. So, this is the king of flicks that they give you just enough to where your mind gets a jump start and your mind has to do everything else. Like you don't see the Cenobites much, but when they probably even reuse the shot, like the fucking blinds, and you see that blue light and you hear the music box and then you see a chain swing. That shit is what Nightmares is made out of, at least for me as a kid. Yeah. Like that's all you need. And then when they start coming from the shadow, they just appear and it's fucking creepy. You see Butterball and Chatterer come from like the corner out of the shadows. And, you just know that these guys are bad. You keep hearing Frank say little things alluding to where he escaped, and you kind of go off what Pinhead's saying. You're just getting very, 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 very small scratch surface little hints about who these people are and where they come from. And it just made my mind go crazy on what hell, because the way those guys looked, the Butterball and all those guys, I mean, I don't want to know who they are. And that's part of the fucking thing I hate about the second one. I don't want to know who the Cenobites are.
I agree with you on that totally, dude.
I love the mystique. And like I said, I want to come to my own conclusions about how bad, like, I don't know, man. Hell must be a terrible place. I mean, and that's where ultimately the second one falls too, because they made and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but they make the mistake of thinking Hollywood could build a set that matched what was in my brain, and they can't. And it just came off hokey. But anyway, continue. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I was going to say what's cool about this movie is it's just loaded with symbolism. You know what I mean? Like the blooming rose is like a symbol for like sexual awakening, and like, or like the moment in the movie where like Larry, this ineffectual beta cuck, essentially can't even get their matrimony mattress up the stairs. Like, he can barely even carry it himself, without hurting himself. I mean, that's like a metaphor for his like,
his beta cuckiness.
Yeah.
His beta cuckiness. Yeah, essentially. But yeah, it's just totally loaded. Like there's a lot of scenes where Julie's walking around, and there's like a heartbeat in the background, like it lets your brain make the connections, which is some of the best kind of filmmaking, I feel like. So, I
mean, and think about it. It's a movie. I love minimalistic movies. I mean, how many sets are really in this movie? You have interior house, exterior house. You have like that one, like, bird, like that pet store or whatever. You see that weird, crazy homeless guy they never really fully elaborate on.
Eating the crickets, There's the mental hospital.
Yeah, there's like literally just a few sets. It's pretty stripped down.
See, in these first two, it seemed like they were setting up the homeless guy as like some messenger or like something like that. At the end, at the end of the second one, he says, "What's your pleasure?" So it makes you think, like, oh, does he shapeshift into the guy that like sells the box to different people? And like, yeah, that guy that sells the box, like, you guys remember, like, it shows him at the beginning, he's got like dirty ass fingernails. That dude is totally like just wiping his ass with his bare hand.
I have a theory, by the way, about that guy. And I like how ambiguous he is. I think it just adds to the charm of the movie. Like, it's got that what the fuck angle. Like, okay.
They never touch on him again.
Yeah, that never went ever anywhere. But so I have to make up my own theory. And my theory is the Hellraiser 1, that universe it's in the same universe as Happy Gilmore, and that's Happy Gilmore's caddy. Alan Culver.
Oh, yes.
Like, because they look the fucking same.
Fuck yeah.
But, yeah, because they don't ever explain. And that end, man, that end is just like a big what the fuck thing where he turns into that demon flying. And it's just weird. Like I said, props for it being practical, but it just looks so fucking weird in a movie that has otherwise great effects. And I think there's a featurette where they talk about what happened there, right?
Yeah, are we going to talk about the movie we like more now, or are we going to say that till we like the end?
I think we should. We'll go into 2. I think so. I think we'll just kind of talk about this. I think that's what we should do. But yeah, I mean, there was production problems, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you know? Because weren't they talking about how rushed or something got in the way that made that last scene with the devil flying away?
Yeah, I remember that.
It looks like a fucking Halloween prop, and then you have why can't I fucking spit it out? The name of what's that monster? What's the monster at the end that crawls on its hands?
Yeah, which on the Blu-ray you can totally see like the guy with like the wheelchair or the crane or whatever it is that pushes it. Him, yeah.
That's definitely like a weak point in the special effects. That hallway scene.
Yeah.
Was kinda,
What the fuck is it called? I can't even think of it.
Big fucking chud monster. Who cares what it's called?
I mean, it doesn't literally have a name in the movie, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, they call it the engineer. Don't they call it no, that's not the engineer. I don't know, the big fucking weird chud thing. Yeah, so it looks weird. It never bothered me as a kid, but yeah, and I think as better transfers come out, like it's just one of those things that
it just to me, like it doesn't even matter. Like the movie's just good enough to where like you can just forgive all this shit like that.
Well, that's the way I always feel about practical effects, and that's
like to me the weakest effect is the very first one where the chains go into it. Like you could just tell it's like a rubber glove painted to look like skin, but like it works.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just a fucking sucker for a movie that gives you so little and makes you, the viewer, do all the work, and that's what this movie was. Josh said it has different elements of symbolism, but yeah, man, it literally makes you fill in all the holes, and that's great. Less is more.
By the way, I'm sorry, can I just throw this in there before I know we're gonna change things up to the second movie, but Christopher Young's fucking score is like so super important to this movie.
It's great. It's
all the drama in all the right places, and it's really, really good.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
That gothic horror vibe.
It's perfect. I mean, getting ahead of myself, I think Hellraiser's perfect. It's one of my favorite movies, even though it's imperfect. I guess you could argue in a couple ways. I think it's perfect. I've always considered it a perfect 10, and it's in my top 3 as far as horror movies. I think it's just brilliant, and the story is king. It's so great. It's one of those, man, once in a generation movies. I think the story is just so good. But then Hollywood's gonna Hollywood, right? And they have the rights to the frame. I think it's a pretty classic story where they funded the first one with the contingency that, hey, we're gonna have the rights going forward. I don't know why Clive Barker still produced the second one, and I can't remember. I know I've watched the featurette. He didn't direct it, but he still had an executive producer role, and I don't know if it was a situation where, well, fuck, they're gonna make it anyway, I might as well kind of oversee it. Do you know anything about that, Goat? What happened there? Well,
yeah, basically what happened was it was just Clive was so early in his like career in terms of like finally starting to like he basically his career was taken up another level, going from author to like he wanted to expand his role into to films and whatnot, because he did have the desire to continue, because he went on and made Lord of Illusions and all that kind of stuff. But it was basically just a situation of the turnaround was so quick. So like Hellraiser 1 was filmed late 86, it came out late 87, and Hellbound 2 pretty much came out like the following year, pretty much
88. Yeah,
it was like as soon as they were done. And also too, they were like, there wasn't a whole lot of downtime between, once post-production finished on part 1, there wasn't a lot of downtime to it was like, holy shit, we want to get it. Like the company was like, if this hits at all, we want a second one done. So it was like pretty much, I think before Hellraiser even 1 came out, it was like they're already talking to Clive and everything. So it was like for him to say no, it wasn't like a situation where 3-4 years later, hey Clive, you want to do this again? And he had moved on. He was still fresh into it. So he was just like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And like basically what happened was everybody who had a behind the scenes role in part 1 stepped up, and like the guy who ended up directing it was part 2. He was his first director job. He had worked on the first movie like entirely behind the scenes, so he felt like he understood Clive's vision. Clive was still around and kind of helped craft the story a little bit, but at the same time, Clive wasn't being precious about it at all. It was like the thought was, we'll just do 2 and then that will be it. You know what I mean? Which is pretty much was true for Clive's involvement going on. Because
it definitely has a bookend feel, at least. They definitely, for better or worse, they're companion pieces, 1 and 2, like, and they end. Yeah. But whether or not you think they help each other out or not, Tony Randall, the guy that directed the second one, he was an effects guy. I think his biggest claim to fame was working on Escape from New York. But other than that, like, he was just, behind the scenes dude. And he never really directed much after that. I mean, I pulled up his IMDb earlier, and he literally did a couple of episodes of fucking Power Rangers in space. And just, fact or fiction beyond belief. Like, he literally went nowhere.
Oh, Fact or Fiction Beyond Belief. He peaked.
Yeah, he peaked. That's a good show, man. But
Jonathan
Frakes, man. But so they, like I said, for better or worse, they are companion pieces. But I'm of the school that will take 3 and 4 over 2, at least because they're separated and they do their own thing and they're at least fun. When you move on to Hellraiser 3, like I said, the bookend's done. What are they going to do now? They're going to make money. Well, let's turn Pinhead into our Freddy Krueger. Let's give him one-liners. Let's bring him on Earth. Let's just do all this bullshit. I can at least take that at face value. But the second one, they're attaching it to the first one, and they're to the point where it hurts it, man, because I just think the first one's perfect. And the second one, they undo everything that made the first one perfect. I mean, you got the same characters. It aesthetically looks very similar, but I don't want to go to hell.
Well, they just took a cheap approach, man. They reversed a lot of shit. So
it's stupid. Dude.
Julia's now Frank.
Yeah,
there's like a big reversal role with the Cenobites and stuff like that, and
it's stupid. And you have the Doctor, and I'm just like, I to this day, and like I said, if Hellraiser 2 was not connected to the first one and it was just another sequel, I might appreciate it more. But the fact that it's so closely linked to that first one, Andrew Robinson. He's like the only guy that didn't return, right? He refused for some reason. I don't even know why he didn't want to come back. Probably because he saw that it was shit. But everybody else returned.
This is like a lot like Halloween 1 and 2, whereas like Halloween 1 and 2 takes place like just the second fucking the first one ends. This one takes place like maybe an hour later. It's like the same night and everything. Yeah. Now she's kind of in the hospital, kind of like that. And did we talk about the plot of this one real quick?
No, which by the way, before I think Halloween 1 and 2 would be a fun episode to do too, because that's, like you said, you could parallel the two franchises in that regard. No, go, because you're the man. Why don't you want to talk about 2 real quick? Just give the skinny on it.
Yeah, just a real basic breakdown is this one is going to be a lot more of a framework of just a loose, disjointed plot in order to kind of propel set pieces at you. So where the first one is, the setting is very kind of monotone and it's all about the characters, it's all about the motivations. This one is just kind of like a big chase movie. So basically, like Zach was saying, Kirsty just barely escapes the events of part 1. And
just like with fucking Child's Play 2, all of a sudden the guy that was there and saw all this shit go down is just gone.
Yep.
She doesn't have any backup. Just like, oh, they're gone now.
Yeah, the boyfriend, he gets replaced somewhere along the line in the movie by some other new boyfriend. Yeah, that's awfully convenient. Sorry, go ahead, Goat.
No, yeah, it just is weird that like the boyfriend is totally whatever, but it's also too so they can introduce new characters. So basically, the whatever funny farm that Kirsty's at, we get introduced to Dr. Chenard, and he's actually this weird doctor who's been playing with mental patients for years. He knows all about the gateways to hell and the boxes, and then we find out there's actually more than one box. Whereas the first movie, this is a instance where in order to do a part 2, they have to cannibalize and change everything from part 1. So it's like the first movie, we get the illusion from the same box being used over and over. And it turns out there's multiple boxes. And he's been trying to find the gateway to hell and whatever. So he starts investigating, Dr. Chenard, he starts investigating Kirsty's story. And he goes and he finds the cum-stained mattress that the Frank and Julia used to always have sex on, and Julia like basically he lets a crazy guy cut himself up because this crazy guy thinks he's got worms all over him. And I could be wrong about this, but I thought the crazy guy, because this is like they're giving everybody a new job on the second one, but I think the crazy guy who cuts himself up was the skinny guy who played Skinless Frank in part 1. Yeah, I watched the documentary a while ago, but yeah,
he's actually back playing Skinless Frank in this one too. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, so basically they use the crazy guy's blood to bring somebody out of the mattress, and instead of Frank coming back, like Aaron said, is Julia. And Julia is like, again, another actress. It's not the original lady who played Julia, so for like, I'd say almost half of the movie.
Deborah Joel is her name, I guess?
No, yeah, I believe she was a Brazilian model, and funny story is because Julia is always horny, she wants to have sex with Dr. Chenard a lot, and she's just a bloody corpse, and they have to make out and stuff, and it turns out like the lady had like a terrible flu, and the director was like telling the Dr. Chenard guy, like, oh, you gotta make out with this girl, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, she has the flu. Like, so watch their kisses in there, like he's kissing her, but he's trying to avoid that tongue at all costs.
It's funny because one of the notes I wrote down is, can a woman seduce a man without her skin? Because that was an interesting aspect of the movie that I thought actually kind of worked in its favor. But
yeah, it was like they definitely, so like basically what happens is, they keep messing around. Kirsty keeps messing around. Basically it's like it's a redo of the first one where she wants to use the Cenobites to, whatever. And they're trying to get a hold of Kirsty because she knows all the behind the scenes, and they want to shut her up because she knows all the whatever about Hellworld. And then we get introduced to a girl who's like, I'd say she's slightly autistic, this young girl who does puzzles. And Chenard's using her to use the different puzzles to open up Gateway to Hell. And then basically the last half of the movie, they just all running around hell. Dr. Chenard gets turned into a Cenobite. Julia's running around. She gets her skin back. She doesn't have to steal anybody's skin. She actually gets her real skin back, and she is a more attractive version of Julia. And it's basically Kirsty and this young girl running through the
Labyrinth or whatever.
Yeah, it's exactly. It looks just like almost like Jim Henson's Labyrinth movie in a lot of ways, like an MC Escher.
Amazing matte painting, by the way. Though that's
yeah. You know what I picked up this time and never picked up before is that the girl might just be mute, because I think that was like that fetus stitching its mouth shut. I think that was like hell fucking with her.
Yeah,
like, oh, she can't talk, so like we'll show her a fetus stitching its mouth shut.
And they try to like draw a weird parallel of like the wicked stepmother and make it almost like a fairy tale too between Julia and Kirsty. Yeah. And maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. It's up to the viewers. We get some good makeup set pieces, and pretty much like they just make like this movie tries to go bigger and badder. So like I don't know how much Aaron wants to talk about the ending, but basically like your not your end of the movie, but your main climax is basically the super charged Dr. Chenard Cenobite versus the Cenobites we know, like Pinhead and the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we get backstory, which everybody loves backstory. Last thing I want to see is Chatterer being a little fucking kid. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
What?
See, I actually like that. That's the only one I liked because it was unusual.
I mean, it makes you think. It makes you think a little bit, but yeah, the worst thing in the world is Pinhead getting a backstory.
Yeah, and they do that right away too.
Yeah,
it's like,
pretty much starts the movie.
Why would you take? It's the same thing with like Rob Zombie's Halloween. It's like you completely demystify the coolness, and scariness of the character.
I think like just because they gave him a suit to wear and like kind of a real name, it's like we still know just as little about him. Like I don't know.
Well, they really take that ball and run with it in part 3.
Yeah.
Right. Talking about like a daughter and the military guy and all this bullshit.
We forgot to mention too. There's one of the reasons Kirsty is going back to hell. It's because she got a vision of what she thought was what she assumes is her dad. And he wrote, "Help me, I'm sticky" on the wall.
Yeah. Well, no, I was gonna say that was the best thing that came out of the movie was the "Help me, I'm all sticky" meme.
Yeah, he actually wrote, "Help me, I'm in hell." But then, like, spoiler alert, we find out, Frank tricked her into thinking he was her dad again. She fell for it again, just like an hour later.
Dude, I hate it.
Good point.
So, as a testament to, like I said, Hollywood cannot replicate what's in my brain on a set. So, I have this idea of what hell is from the first movie, and I can't quite fathom it, but I know it's fucking creepy. But it turns out, you know, when she visits Frank, right? They're like, they kind of do the whole like personal hell, like Bill and Ted thing. Mm-hmm. And first of all, it turns out hell's really barren. Like there's nobody around. And Frank, I mean, he has his own like lounge area, and it's just kind of hot. Like he's kind of like sweating a little bit. Like maybe the AC's broke. Mm-hmm. It's like, this ain't that bad.
A bunch of corridors, like blue light, and then like, yeah, you go into a room, and then yeah, like Frank's just hanging out, and then he's got a bunch of like sex kittens or whatever that come out, like
yeah, like
underneath
this ain't that bad.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that the absorption room is like not nearly as cool as the original, just creepy ass attic that they had in the first movie. Like they kind of like upscale it for some reason, and it takes away from the creep factor. But
all right, so Hellraiser 2 though, as a whole though, I don't know. If it was a separate thing, I would like it a little better perhaps. And visually, like you said, some matte painting stuff that looks really cool. It just doesn't feel like it's the same fucking universe to me. It just doesn't.
Well, it just fucking, the movie meanders. It's like you're into it.
Yeah.
You know, you're into it for the first, I don't know, third to half of the movie. You're like, okay, you're kind of invested. And then it just starts to meander. And just, there's a lot of recycling in this movie. A lot. I mean, they have to start the movie off with a recap. And then there's like a montage in there. There's a lot of recycled shit in the middle of the movie. And that breaks the momentum. And then like, when you hit the back end of the movie, man, I'm just like, is this movie over? It's like, it's really long. It feels like it's way too long, you know?
It feels like it's like 2.5 hours at least. I've always noticed that. For some reason, like watching it this time, it was probably the most coherent viewing I've ever had, probably because I knew like, okay, yeah, we're going to talk about it for the show. I got to pay extra attention. Like every other time I've ever watched this, it's like, just kind of like, I lose interest. And I could talk about the first time I watched it. Like me and Mac, we rented 1 and 2. We both watched it, and like I loved the first one so much, and like he wanted to just go right into part 2 right after the first one ended, and I felt like, oh man, I'm on a high from the first movie. Like I can wait till like tomorrow or something. And he's like, no, I want to watch it right now. So like we started watching it, and I always figured like I remember having a hard time getting into it, but I remember like my friend came over and we started goofing off, and I was kind of just barely paying attention to the movie. So I always kind of thought like, oh, it was just a bad first impression with the movie. So like for years after, I'd always try to watch it again, and I'd always just lose interest. Usually around the same time too, around whenever they go to hell. And it's like, this time like was the most like coherent viewing I had over ever since then. But yeah,
the first one does slow burn much better, and by all means it probably should be the more boring movie because it's got a lot less on the surface, right? But
that's the thing too, is I noticed this watching them again for the show. I don't think the first one is a slow burn at all. I think it's perfectly paced.
Oh yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
me too.
It feels like a very well crafted in terms of its pacing type of movie, and you can really tell that they really rushed this movie into production, because there's actually a scene in the movie where one of the actors like calls Christy. I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
Yeah, I noticed.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like the dude didn't get her name right, you know? Like,
they're similar. It's possible like, in real life you could fuck that up, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean the production crew did, and even maybe they did catch it and didn't give a shit, but
you want to know one thing, a plot hole I kind of noticed this time watching it? Like, remember how offended Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites acted when they found out that Frank escaped them? Like, they were so shocked, like, you'd think this is a one-off thing, but then right away, like, fucking Julia does it the same exact way.
Yeah, these guys really suck at their job, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'd think there'd be a lot more people escaping. It can't just be down to those two. So, and by the way, sidestep story though, I always liked that Hellraiser mattress because my brother, when he moved out of the house, man, he lived in this dump. And I remember I went over there one day, me and my family went over there one day, and he had a dirty ass mattress he had pulled out of like the dumpster, the community dumpster, and he was sleeping on the floor, and it legit, and everybody called it the Hellraiser mattress. And I'm like, you've seen that movie. We've all seen that movie. How could you sleep on this? Having seen that fucking movie. But he's always it's Dr. Sleaze, so he was always kind of a gross type of dude. But
like, yeah, there's a couple scenes that always come to mind when I think of this movie, and it's always like the scene where they give the insane guy the straight razor is like probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, that's fucked
like,
up.
you guys agree?
Yeah,
it's fucked up.
No, that's great. I love that. That's a great scene, and I love the whole idea of the mattress on the floor with the like something about that. I think made the movie more appealing for some reason. Like. It's just sort of like it's an actual good moment of symbolism for somebody like Julia. You know what I mean? Like it makes sense. And it's something really creepy about a dirty mattress on a floor. You know, but
I mean, and there's people that literally fucking sleep like that. It's fucking disgusting.
It sounds like we're all kind of on the same page, unless unless our boy the goat, he's just like, no, I love the second one.
Yeah, so let's do it. We'll kind of wrap it up and we'll talk about it. Each one of us will just kind of discuss how you feel about the first movie and the second movie, and do you think the second one ultimately assists the first one, or if it just hinders it? Why don't you start, man? Just kind of.
Yeah, so I have somewhat of a similar reaction to Zach. I remember when part one came out, I was so hyped on it from Fangoria, the month that the first one came out. They had Bloody Frank on the cover, and that just like fascinated me. I couldn't wait to see the skinless man. So I remember I was actually sick from school that day, and I still convinced my dad to take me to see Hellraiser that night. And it was just like a great experience because like at that time to me, it felt like the first one was this whole new world of horror. Like Clive Barker seemed like this just edgy, insane, bizarre fucker. You know what I mean? And I don't know what happened with part two, if the distribution was shoddy or what, but like I never remembered it. Like we went to the movie every single week, so if Hellraiser 2 would have been playing near me, I would have like demanded to see it. So somehow I missed it theatrically, and I remember finally getting to see it like way later when it came out on video. And I just remember sitting and watching that VHS tape and like being bored as a kid, like it totally like whatever. But I gotta say, like and then I saw 3 when it came out. Thought it was mediocre. I kind of liked 4, and I kind of dropped off after that. But like really, rewatching it. I just got the box set like maybe 2 months ago, and I rewatched it this time for this episode. I have a whole new appreciation for part 2. It's a vastly inferior movie to part 1, but it's like one of those things where like sequels or movies that you compartmentalize because you like it for a specific reason, not because it's a great movie on its own. But like if there was no Hellraiser 1, I think we would like Hellraiser 2 a lot better. But I do appreciate that I was like, oh shit, they actually did bring Julia back. Oh shit, the guy who plays Frank actually does do a cameo. And like I like it that it's in that club of movies, which let's be honest, they never turn out great, but it's in that club of horror movies that just comes out a year after the first one, completely rushed. So like there's you definitely see the cracks in the walls type thing. But at the same time, like I really like this movie, and I liked it a lot. That being said, when I watch it, because it totally demystifies part 1, to me part 1 is such a clear Clive Barker vision, and this is like maybe 1/4 of a Clive Barker vision, and it's just doing that thing of like the part 2 is basically just cannibalizing the first one in order to have enough fumes to keep the car running type thing. So like I like this a lot better now seeing it, and then also too seeing how terrible the franchise got later without the direct-to-video parts. But like I'm by far way higher I think than you guys on this. I enjoy it a lot as a curiosity, a weirdly created, rushed, weird thing. But yeah, I mean, it's if the original Hellraiser to me is probably like a 9 out of 10, this is like a fun, solid 7 out of 10 to me.
Okay, Josh, what about you, man?
Oh yeah,
I mean, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, because we originally had the concept to do this years ago. I don't know if I brought it up on another show or something, and I think hatched the idea to do like Hellraiser 1 and 2, but Hellraiser 1 is a really tight movie, and great script, great concept, great tone, great pacing. And obviously, Hellraiser 2 suffers from sequelitis. Like, you could tell they pumped a lot of movie into it and then rushed this thing out. And it's just, I don't know what because originally my opinion was I liked the second one better.
Yeah, I remember somebody said, yeah.
Yeah, that was me. And I think it was just based off the fact that I really liked some of the aspects of the visuals. And I really liked what they did. Like, the skin suit, Julia's skin suit and all that stuff, like, was fantastic. Some of the matte paintings and stuff I really liked. I mean, there's things in Hellraiser 2 I like, and overall, essentially, I like the movie. I do. It's a way better sequel than a lot of other, movie sequels have been in the past. But the problem is it's not like Halloween and Halloween 2 where you can watch them and they really kind of flow seamlessly. Like Hellraiser 1 and Hellraiser 2 really have a stark difference in terms of a lot of different aspects of their properties. Mm-hmm. And, you like you said, you come off Hellraiser 1 and you're feeling really good. I mean, it's just a great movie. And then Hellraiser 2 just kind of drops off into being kind of like a dud, and it doesn't really carry that special vibe from the first movie. Now, I still really do like Hellraiser 2, but I don't think I would really recommend watching them together back to back, unless you've maybe seen them like a whole bunch of times, because you kind of anticipate what's coming. But trying to look at my notes. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I wrote like 1 page of notes for the first one. It's all mainly good stuff. And then for the second movie, I had 2 pages of notes and it's all mainly bad stuff. And I was like, God damn, Aaron was right. So it'd be interesting to see if you flip-flopped on me in terms of what's your favorite. But I thought there was just, in terms of the second one, the downfall, it's just basically they took the low road in terms of just doing a lot of like role reversal with stuff. Adding in a lot of filler with montages and rehashing stuff from the first movie, and just generally making a tone-deaf, boring movie at the end, even though it's like hyped up with visuals. Mm-hmm. The story, the characters really don't develop to any place interesting. So I would say Hellraiser's like, I wouldn't give it a perfect 10, but I'd say like a 9.5 out of 10, and then I would say Hellraiser 2 is probably more like a 6 or a 6.5.
I'm not sure I don't know when the last time you watched it was, but I can see these easily being those types of movies where, like, let's say I've seen them, but I haven't seen them since I was 10. Maybe I'm foggy on the details, but you always remember. It's Zach and we always talk about when we watch some of these movies for commentaries, we're like, oh man, I thought I liked this movie a lot more. It's because when you saw something when you were younger, you remember visual shit. You remember, like Mac's always like, oh, I fucking love that movie, but he only remembers one scene. But that's what sticks out to you. So if I hadn't seen Hellraiser 1 and 2 since I was 10, I would remember nothing but those poppin' visuals, like you're saying, of 2. Like, oh man, I just remember it being so cool when I was a kid, and hell and
You know what? I do remember like people were super excited for this movie because it was like, it was kind of sold as like, oh, this is a cut above the first one. Like this one's unrated, and you got to get the unrated VHS, and it had that image of her peeling the face off Julia's face.
Sometimes more isn't more, it's less, and like I think they were overcompensating for some reason, and I mean it has some really beautiful stuff in it, so I think that's what stuck in my head. I really love that master image of Frank against the wall, I'm in hell. I mean that's like Goat was saying that I remember seeing that I think in Fangoria or something, and being like just completely captivated by the gnarliness of that idea. But I think part of it too is you change, and your priorities and what you enjoy in your entertainment changes. And I've seen like so many movies, since I probably watched these movies back to back. And so, you kind of tend to look at things with a little bit more of a critical eye,
What comes to mind is when I remember we were going to do Surf Ninjas with Riverman, Zach. And Riverman's like, oh yeah, I love that movie. I'm like, do you really, Todd? Like, I don't think, do you like the movie? Or when you were 10 years old, you remember Brothers Don't Surf, and you say that and you laugh about it now. And he went back and he watched the movie and prepped for the commentary. He's like, dude, that was fucking terrible. I'm like, it's not good. We remember Brothers Don't Surf. We remember fucking, it's got the guy from
Moto Surf.
It's got the guy from Airplane in it. Great. And Rob Schneider's got a couple of stupid lines that don't hold up, but the movie is fucking trash. So yeah, it's really weird what sticks to the walls of our brains.
That's kind of like how I feel about 80s nostalgia cartoons, like Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh yeah.
Like you go out, I mean, you could pick up season 1 of Thundercats on like, Blu-ray or something, and you're like, oh, like you're rubbing your hands together, like you're so excited to watch it. And a couple episodes in, you realize that the stories were like written for children, and it becomes really boring.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I remember people were like, oh man, I always remember loving the animation of this. But then it's like, no, you remember the animation of the opening only, because that was like done by like some other animation team, and then the actual animation for the show was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's selective memory, man. But dude, very little of those retro nostalgic cartoons live up. There's a couple I can.
Some of the Dungeons and Dragons stuff is fun still, but you watching, and Transformers can can pull off an episode or two, but if you're watching like He-Man or something, you're like, man, this shit's just straight up fucking goofy. You know what I mean?
And homoerotic.
Maybe if you were like toasted on a bowl of weed,
yeah,
bring out some of the entertainment value. But
so Zach, what? Now your turn. What do you go off on Hellraiser 1 and 2?
Oh yeah, I already explained it. Yeah, I always thought since the first time I watched it, I thought the first one was like hell yeah, like that. I got up from that 7th grade and I knew like that's one I'm gonna watch over and over again. Like I'm gonna end up liking that just as much as the Jason. And at that time I'd never seen them, so I was super excited to uncover this whole series worth of movies that were still coming out. Little did I know that's the only one I'd really like. And then there were like 1 or 2 throughout the series that it's like, yeah, I can deal with this. But I'd give the first one at least a 9. It's hard to tell. What did I say? It's a 10 out of 10. Usually when I say something's a 10 out of 10, I don't mean it's like a perfect movie. It can still have flaws.
Your attachment to it. Yeah. It's how you.
Yeah, it's a movie that I love. It's just kind of do I like this movie? If I like a movie, I'll say it's like a 7. If I like it, if it's like a high I'll go 8. But when I really love a movie, it's yeah, I'll give it a 10.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, a movie can be cheap and corny and imperfect, but it still be a 10. Like Sleepaway Camp, you know what I mean? That's just there's not a lot of technical prowess there, but it's just such an amazing movie,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
And then for part 2, like I said, this was the most coherent kind of viewing I had. I didn't get bored and kind of look. I did watch it in 2 sittings, but not because I got bored. I just had to. That was kind of the time I had. But even though it was I get this movie a lot more, I'd still say it's about a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Kind of middle of the road.
Interesting.
If you like what they do with Hell, you're probably going to like it more, than we did. But I don't hate what they did with the Hell stuff, but some of it's just kind of the baby stitching his mouth shut is just clearly a doll.
That
Cabbage Patch Kid.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I like most of Hell, except then they make it seem like that the entity controlling everything is just a giant puzzle box floating in the sky.
Leviathan.
Yeah.
Leviathan is the only really lame thing that I hate about Hell.
Dr. Renard Cenobite, I always thought was kind of lame.
With his giant cock.
Yeah, he fucks someone's head, right? Or
lazy. It's a lazy design or something.
I mean, it was kind of cool. They had to use stop motion effects for those tentacles and stuff. But it was just fucking Chatterer. That's a great design. What's everybody's favorite Cenobite?
They gave Chatterer eyes in the second one for some reason. Well, there's reason because the actor wanted to be able to see. I think Chatterer's probably the most iconic of the henchmen.
I think he's always the second favorite to Pinhead, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. He's described in the lore and the story as his general, his second in command. His second. But, dude, I don't know, man. Whenever they cut to Butterball taking off his glasses and he's got the scratches for eyes, no eyes, that's pretty creepy. I think they're all great. Oh, we didn't mention, but they recast the female Cenobite, right? Yeah. She's a different actress.
Oh, yeah. The female Cenobite too, I would have sex with that neck hole.
Yeah, that vagina neck. Yeah. Which that's subtext, right? That's obviously intended to look like a vagina.
Definitely.
Well, so what's interesting about my review of it is I actually agree with everything that you said, Goat, but I have Zach's score.
Right.
Not for the better. So I feel like if this was its own movie, if they began the lore in the second one and this was what the original Hellraiser was, I think it would fare better. But just stacking it up against that first one, it just makes it worse. And if this was its own movie, I could easily tell you it's better than 3, but because 3 at least does its own thing, as schlocky as it is, and that movie has terrible overdubs too. Let's not get started there. But I respect it better. I can't. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. It's weird talking about Halloween because I like Halloween 2, but it is a lot like the Halloween 1 and 2 thing. But I rewatched it again, and it's not a movie that I just remember hating fucking 20 years ago. I go back to The Well every couple of years and I try and watch it because I'll get into Hellraiser. I have the box set too. I've actually got the European release and the American decked out box set. I love those movies, and I'll get into a mood and I'll like binge them. I'll try and binge the first 4, and I don't skip the second one, and just I want to like it if I could, but I just don't. And I think I think as it sits, it's like a 5 out of 10. And for me, Hellraiser's, I've been watching that movie since I was a little kid. My dad told me about Hellraiser ever since I was a little kid, because he, being the guy he was, while my mom was giving birth to Dr. Sleazak in 1987, he, instead of being there for the birth, he went to the movies and watched Hellraiser.
Wow.
And yeah, my dad was a class act.
Honestly, I can't blame him for that.
Yeah, I think I would have done the same.
When my mom and dad, when she got pregnant the first time, she had a miscarriage and she was devastated, pretty late term. My dad had Judas Priest tickets that night and he still went without her.
Damn.
Holy shit.
And
That's fucking cold-blooded, man.
Dude, even to like his dying day, he's like, dude, what the fuck, dude? I was 19. It was Judas Priest in 1984, and it was that night. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, he was no fucking fucks all the way to the end. But anyway, so
did she go too at least?
No, she was devastated. No, she didn't go. He probably took her ticket and gave it to a buddy. Or he scalped it or something. I don't fucking know. But anyway, so he always told me how creepy he thought the movie was. And and I still attest my story. I've told it on BTM about my first time experience with Hellraiser 2. We would go to the local rental place, man, and we'd rent out a movie every Friday. And we rented Hellraiser 2 Hellbound Hellraiser 2, sorry. And I had always wanted to see it. This is probably in the early mid 90s. And the cover always lured to me. I liked the first one, and we rented it. But when we got home, man, we put in the fucking tape. It was Hellbound starring Chuck Norris. And you know what? To this day, that is a bet. Dude, the video store clerk put in the wrong Hellbound in the box. And but to this day, man, I'll fucking take that shitty Chuck Norris movie over Hellraiser 2. It just hurts it.
Brutal.
Dude, it just hurts it, man. I would like it so much better if it wasn't connected. But yeah, I think it's just, I love the first one so much, and I think I'm just a little bitter about it. Like, who knows? Maybe I'm being unfair with the score. But anyway, yeah, that's how I sit with it.
By the way, can I just add that it's a fucking crime what happened to this franchise? Like,
yeah, it almost was.
I mean, I like Bloodline, all right. You know, it's a little shifty, but I actually think there's some good storytelling in there. The origins of the Hellbox and stuff like that.
I've been wanting to go back and watch Bloodline for a while, yeah.
But everything that came after that, man, it's just a complete abomination. Just terrible movies.
You know what? I actually liked the fifth one because, like, before that, it was like, oh, this is kind of a new idea. Like, we're actually seeing, it's kind of like a Jacob's Ladder thing. We're actually seeing what the person goes through when they open the box. That's kind of cool. But then they ended up doing that for the rest of the series. It's like, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
Fuck this movie.
I've never seen a studio bleed a property dry like they have Hellraiser. And I don't know. I mean, obviously they started off with like the intentions of, hey, we got a hit on our hands. We want our own Freddy. We want our Jason franchise, our Halloween. But somewhere along the way, they stopped writing for a franchise and started pulling out random scripts and injecting Pinhead for 5 minutes into it.
Absolutely. That's why they're all direct to video horse shit.
Yeah. And it's just trying to squeeze every last drop from a fucking lemon or something. And
real quick, too, it goes to show you like what we were saying before, like the second one had like a bigger budget, I'm sure, and like, oh yeah, this one's super bloody, it's unrated, but like it shows you like that's a conveyor belt movie that they needed to put out because, you know, the first one did good, and the first movie had a visionary guy that was directing it, and like there's multiple like effects that don't hold up, but it's like we just forgive it because it's a good movie anyway.
Yeah.
And he was in Clive Barker, man, he was kind of the almost was too, but not quite, because his other movies that he directed, I know he didn't direct a whole lot. I don't think he likes it very much, as from what I think I've read before. He's not like the biggest fan of, but like his movies are good, but they're missing something. Like, I like Lord of Illusions. I don't love it. Like, it kind of shits the bed at the end. It's missing something, but I like Scott Bakula. I like the story overall, but it's just missing something. Nightbreed, it's like, I want to like Nightbreed. I like the story. I like the tone. It feels like Clive Barker, but it's just missing something.
For some reason, Hellraiser seems like, it's probably not true, but it seems like the least tampered with movie or something. Like it seems like it has the less amount of studio interference or something.
Yeah.
Well, like, you know, his movies he directed, like Hellraiser, Nightbreed, Lord of the Illusions, it's kind of sad that his best movie was the first one he directed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, and quick sidestep before we wrap it up here, but I was telling you guys I have a soft spot for movies that are early 90s. That's why I like the third one as much as I do, because it reeks of night of the year it came out. You know, the soundtrack and the aesthetic. So it's down to the CD Cinnabyte, right?
CD head, yeah.
Cutting edge technology. I'm a sucker for it, man. But yeah, anyway, so let us know out there what you guys think of the topic of Hellraiser versus Hellbound. And I thought we were going to be a little bit more split, but it seems like we're more on the one fence than the other. Goat, he surprised us. He likes it a little more than the rest of us. But I think it would be a good idea to do this for Halloween 1 and 2. I think you could even probably do it with Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2, right? Yeah. Like if you imagine that series stopped after 2, it's fucking tonally different. Like there's some parallels there. So this could be a fun type of thing going forward. But wrapping up, Josh, you want to go ahead and plug all your shit, man? What you got coming out, your channel?
Yeah, sure. My channel's called The R-Rated Show. It's just kind of a smattering of different things. It's my podcast, which is the R-Rated Horror Commentary Podcast, which is, you know, it's just fan commentaries for horror movies. That's also on horrorphilia.com. Also, I've just been doing a lot of like reviews on different types of things. So my channel is like has an emphasis on horror, but we also do, you know, Star Wars stuff, mainstream movie stuff. I did a review for I do reviews for all kinds of movies. Basically, we do interviews, and it's just a good time. So yeah, come check it out. Subscribe to my channel, and leave some comments on there. Let me know who you are. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, very cool. And also on that note, you should let Josh know, like, if you came from the show, let him know, man, because I noticed some incest going on, and that's awesome. I love it. And we'll get that from Exploited. We'll get old Exploited guys coming over that are coming over because we're putting out Exploited Cinema stuff, and they'll check out these new videos. So yeah, let us know. I think it's very interesting to keep track of.
You all heard it here. Aaron endorses incest.
Yeah. Well, when
incest is best.
When it benefits us, yes, absolutely.
Oh, I'm sure I'll be hearing from Mendoza somewhere. He'll probably be talking shit about me. Omega always finds something to rag on me about. But no, yeah, we've been weaving this tale. Shit, me and you guys, our channels have been commingling for a couple of years now.
Yeah, for sure.
How long has it been? Yeah. Maybe 3 years or something going on now.
Yeah, it's going by scary fast. I don't even want to think about how long time has passed. Hey, Goat. Go ahead and pitch your shit, man. Movie Graveyard.
Yeah, I got one last Hellraiser thing. I think you could actually do a good episode like we did tonight for 3 and 4 because they're such wackily different movies. But
yeah.
I think what they should have done to save Hellraiser before it went direct to video, they should have went just like Hail Mary pass. They should have went and done Pinhead meets Pauly Shore. You could have totally done the hey buddy.
You could have put Pauly Shore in 3 and he would have fit right in.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine all the it's the attempt at them being Nightmare 3. Like literally, it's nothing but one-liners. Remember when the Cenobite, like her cameraman, remember when he reveals himself to be a Cenobite and he's like, ready for your close-up, Joey? Like, what the fuck?
The Nightmare on Elm Street franchise was a victim of itself, essentially, So, yeah, it influenced a lot of other 80s horror movies, unfortunately, so...
Hey, buddy, I open up this box looking for some fresh nugs, and then y'all come in with your twisty chains, like, and you got your tweaked melon with the crusty spikes.
That would have been a better movie.
No, yeah, everybody, I want to thank all the, the Revival House, Cinema Enema, BTM listeners that have migrated over and become Movie Graveyard listeners. I've been getting feedback, through different channels, YouTube, Apple reviews, all that stuff. And I could tell some of you guys migrated over. So thank you for all the nice comments and encouragement. And I want to tease a hot one here. We got coming up on in the Movie Graveyard September 7th. Me and Zach were bringing the TURTLE power.
Hell yes.
1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, baby. Look for that dropping on September 7th.
My favorite movie of all time? Man, why wasn't I invited? It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Didn't know. I would have invited you if I knew. I didn't know you was down.
I fucking love that movie, man. That's a good example of Zach saying, a 10 based on how you enjoy it. I've always called it a 10 because that was the first movie I ever saw in theaters.
I didn't even know you liked it that much.
Dude, look at my letterbox. It's my top movie.
Oh yeah.
Letterbox. Yeah, I fucking love it. But anyway, I look forward to listening to it. So no, I've been enjoying, man, listening to the movie Graveyard, and especially when Zach goes on. I all the exploited shit. You guys have been doing the stuff with exploited lately. Just as like, I don't know, I love listening to that shit. Just as like a fan. Like I sometimes I'm glad I don't have anything to do with that because I can just check it out.
Yeah, I also like on the side of our YouTube, I put like there's a little spot to put like other channels, and I put recommended viewing, and I put Josh's channel and our boy DVD Hillbilly Movie Reviews in there too.
Nice, thank you.
So yeah, everybody just it's right there on our channel, so go to it, baby. Watch those.
Suck all of our dicks. It's a circle jerk. Just help us all out. On that note, as far as Revival House, same old thing. If you're new to the channel, we release BTM commentary every Wednesday. We do Cinema Enemas once a month now. I'd like to be able to do them more, but right now, once a month. We got Exploited Cinema. I can't even explain what their schedule's like. Pretty much, they've kind of come out of retirement semi, and they surprise us with new episodes from time to time. But when there isn't a new episode, we're slowly uploading the backlog in order every single week. Mac and Zach, those come out on Mondays. Our boy William Lowry, he launched a new gaming centric show for our network, and he's going to start off doing that once a month. So it's called the Game Slice.
It would be cool to do a crossover show with him.
Yeah. He asked me to come on for Tony Hawk, and he just kind of ran it by me. But I think, I mean, especially Zach, I don't know if you're going to play that, but yeah, I think we should all just, it helps, especially a new show like his out. You know, network TV
guy
does it too.
I remember how hard it was to get to your first 100 subs. You know, it's like, it's torture.
Well, yeah.
We got to do like the network TV where they launch a spinoff show, and we got to like take our established people and have them be guest stars on it. So people, no, let's help him out. So check that out, leave him feedback, and that stuff will help him out a lot. And, you know, good or bad, he's going to be growing. I know he's already grown a lot, but, yeah, other than that, if you guys want to support, obviously like us and like the video. When you like a video on YouTube, I hear in the first 24 hours, I think that does a boost to the algorithms. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you want to actually see all of our content come up in your feed. We're on free feeds everywhere, podcast services. Give us a like and all that shit, and 5-star ratings over Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and the like. That stuff helps us a lot. And, you know, if your listenership wasn't already enough, that's all we really can ask for. If you guys wanted to do any more, we do have a Patreon as well as a Teespring. Go check out some designs. Buy a Cinema shirt, man, for fuck's sake. Those are great. I know they throw us back a nice chunk when you guys buy something and you get something tangible for it. So anyway, that's all we really got. Any last words from anybody? No?
Be excellent to each other.
Thank you, guys.
I'm all good.
No, thanks, guys. We'll catch you guys next time. Next BTM coming out, we are going to be doing Zach Tell 'em. It's a long requested sequel. Josh, I don't know if he's going to be on or not.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Drum roll.
we're doing Necromaniac 2, Schizophreniac.
Okay. So, and then check out our newest episode. We did Cruising Al Pacino on the BTM show. But that's all we got, guys. Leave us feedback and check you out next time. Bye, puppies.